All right, let's get ready to get into the action here for our final match of the day, guys. It's going to be Eternal Fire facing off against Jano, and it's going to be an interesting one, folks. I feel like Jano, not Jano, I don't know why I said that. It's Troglodytes, but it is going to be, Eternal Fire up against Troglodytes. I got a little crossed up there, folks. But yeah, it technically is the ex-Jano squad, the core, right? That's going to be coming through here. And we're going to watch and look at these players. Like, I'm going to break them down for you guys. We have Henyu, right, who's on the side of Troglodytes, who's the only one who's actually been playing recently from that ex-Jano core. Played 9 matches with various rosters over the last 3 months, and not necessarily anything special, and just hasn't found a permanent home since the Jano days, which ended in May. And then you have Jello and Smiley, who haven't played an official since being with Jano. That goes all the way back to May of this year. Depression then you outside of the ex-Jano core, you have Depression and Mikey. Depression parted ways with Partisan very recently after a 5-month trial, quote unquote. It felt like he was more part of the team, but still listed as a trial, and ended up getting dropped from that squad. So he's joined up here with the ex-Jano boys, and he's a decent player. I don't think he's anything. I think he's put up some decent numbers. Just obviously wasn't the fit that they were looking for on the side of Partisan. And then finally, you have Mikey, who's been inactive with Eklot since June. He has played for Slovakia, 2 BO3s there. Copenhagen Wolves, just for 1 BO3 as a stand-in. Mix, 1 BO3 as well. And then Volt, which felt like he might have been joining up with them. 7 BO3s with the squad, but then that ended up falling through as well. And most recently with G-Lore, which was a 2 BO3s. Finally ends up here. I don't know what Mikey's plans are. I think he's just looking for a team that's going to stick with him, and he's going to stick with overall in the long term. But right now, he's playing with his ex-Jano core on Troglodytes. And I mean, overall, in terms of the squad itself, even when they were Jano, things weren't necessarily going that well. If you looked at the results for them, mostly losses, and their BO3s that they'd played way back in May, like we're talking about, from March to May, they only won 3, make that 2 BO3s amongst a lot. I think the number of BO3s was 38 maps, but BO3 wise, it was, I think, 12 or 13. Like, it was not very good in terms of the results on their side. So we'll see if that changes. But they're not going to have an easy competition here. Now going up against Eternal Fire. And interesting notes for Eternal Fire. They've also had some roster changes as well. They dropped quite a few players. Lugson, Drezzy, and M-Star in favor of acquiring Beanox, Mary, and Mast from Sangal Esports, which on the surface of it seemed like a pretty good idea. They got a good core from Sangal, essentially. Then only a couple of months later, they decide, okay, Mary's not the fit. They bench him and reinstate Drezzy into the starting lineup. M-Star, well, that's not relevant, but he ends up getting acquired by a different team. And then Lugson was demoted to the academy lineup. But overall, in terms of the roster they have right here, Beanox and Mask still remain. They are very, very good players, so it makes sense that Eternal Fire would want to keep them on board. Then you have Emor, fantastic IGL, Calyx, and Drezzy. So this squad, for me, feels like one that's absolutely bound for the next stage of the CCT series. Like, if they don't go 2-0, and just advance forward very quickly, that would, to me, be kind of a surprise. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes for the squad here in the Swiss state. I said 2-0, maybe I meant 3-0. Anyway, either way, it's going to be a map veto coming through here. We'll talk through this one. I think no matter which way you slice it, it's going to be an advantage for Eternal Fire. But Eternal Fire picking into Mirage, and I'm going to look at the ex-Jano core results here, as I think there's still a basis for it, due to the fact that Henyu is still part of the roster and he's the IGL, and he's probably going to have his comfort zone in terms of maps. Anyway, so Mirage picked by Eternal Fire, like I said. That would make sense with Overpass being banned out by the Troglodytes. And then Dust 2 is the pick by the Troglodytes, and finally Nuke left over. The game is live. We're going to jump into the action. I just want to finish my thoughts there on the veto. Dust 2 was a map that ex-Jano was playing a lot. They were picking into it a good amount of time, 25% of the time. 9 maps played on it, 1 and 8. Again, this is going back half a year, but still, 1 and 8 for this core on Dust 2. And then Train was their other pick, 81.8 pick percentage. But obviously that didn't come through in this one, so not really relevant. All right, let's go through and see what's going to happen here on Mirage. Henyu going to get the opener onto Mask. Troglodytes just hoping for something to go well for them, honestly. And this is a great pistol round. Depression getting a couple off onto Emor and Calyx. An Eternal Fire on the back foot in this pistol. I don't think they're going to get a frag. Beanox trying to spam away. I believe he got the good shot, but it's not good enough to get one. There we go. Beanox finally clicking onto Henyu. It's a 1v5 clutch. It's, yeah, not going to happen. Depression the last onto Beanox. Very well done for the Troglodytes. And they will get that pistol. Just the pistol round, though. We'll see how it goes as things continue on here. But yeah, I think Emor is... We've seen opping IGLs kind of disappear from the game, so to speak. A lot of players opting to just go either for the IGL duties or the opping, not both, because of how much pressure is on an opper's shoulders right now in terms of performing in the current map pool, and especially in CS2, I think. But at the end of the day, Emor remains one of those players that can still call and frag with that op. Numbers have slipped a little bit recently. He's at 1.06 rating over the last 3 months. But in general, I think Eternal Fire have been looking for some answers. That's why they made such a significant roster change on that side. Mikey waiting on the other end of the smoke. Eternal Fire do go for the Force Spy into this round. Calyx just dancing around here. Drezzy's with him. They're waiting for the smoke to fade, and they're going to double swing this, is my guess. There's the faded smoke. Oh no, Drezzy's going to hold the angle. Wins the fight against Mikey with the Mac 10 M4. Mac 10 versus M4 at that range? Ooh, that's rough for Mikey. Drezzy reloads that Mac 10 and continues to move forward. Calyx going to grab the A1S off the ground. Already looking kind of promising for Eternal Fire with the space they potentially gained here. 3 players leaning A. Calyx catches off Smiley, and Emor's rotating to B. They leave one behind at A. That's Calyx still alive now. Can cut off 2 more players. This is scary for the Troglodytes. Yeah, Henyu still has the A1S, and Jello at least taking care of Calyx. Allows him to grab the A1S off the ground. But it's going to be difficult. Yes, they get a follow-up onto Beanox. Time ticking away. Kid is available in Jello's hands. Jello peering around Cat. Henyu fading off into the distance. Yeah, this will end up being a save for the Troglodytes. Honestly, can't blame them, given the position they were in. Drezzy's got nothing to lose here. You can just charge out with the Mac 10, try to get frags, and, well, it doesn't happen. But Mask will get one before he dies to the bomb. And Emor hunts a little bit. Armor's valuable. Anyway, that doesn't matter. He is going to keep the Deagle at the very least. And on the other side for Troglodytes, they keep 2 A1Ss alive. That means they can absolutely justify the Force Spy into this one, especially considering Depression has the AWP purchased up. They are all knotted up at 1. Eternal Fire will get 3 AKs and 2 Galils. The Galils purchased up in order to get that util up and running. Emor's already lining up that mid-smoke. And he'll toss it on forward for window. Believe that hit the mark. Oh, maybe not. No, it missed. Not what you want to see. It's going to be a trade after that opening frag happens for Drezzy. Mikey taking care of him. Yeah, you got to hit your mid-smokes, of course. It's one of the more... I don't want to say it's the most difficult smoke to throw, but it's one of the more difficult smokes to throw in the game, just because there's a lot of different lineups for it, but you should be good to go for the most part. Like, there you go. Properly thrown this time. Especially at this level, it should be fairly consistent, like 99% of the time. Anyway, I won't harp on it too much. They're still in decent position here. They did gain that mid control. Didn't really cost them too much. Mikey. Waiting here with the A1S. Was it the nade? I thought he was going to throw for a second. Now holds the rifle, blinded and all, hits the shot onto Beanox and does damage against Mass. In fact, takes him down to 10 HP. The thing is, Calyx lurking in the shadows, deals with Henyu, delivering a bullet right to his dome. Now that bomb will be planted towards the A site. Smiley and Jello, I mean, they're the last ones alive, and it's honestly the worst case scenario for Troglodytes because it's the MP9s instead of the M4s. As I'm saying that, Jello gets one, but his teammate is traded out, leaving him by his lonesome position known up against two AKs. Not the best of circumstances, and unfortunately for him, he cannot make it work. Emor gets the last, and Eternal Fire have turned a pistol round loss into 2-round victories in a row. On the other side, Troglodytes, as mentioned, that was a force buy for them. Made sense, obviously, with the 2 guns that were saved over. But unable to convert means that they'll be stuck on a full eco. Maybe some justification to get a pistol in the mix here, but I'm sure they want to get that op up as soon as possible. I should say pistol upgrade. And Mikey does go for it, but that's the only one. A stack for Troglodytes. Probably going to be a push down that ramp. Got to gamble a little bit for information and go for a quick play. Thing is, with all this util being tossed mid and nothing being seen so far down ramp, you got to think B at some point. Anyway, Eternal Fire were already heavily favored to win this round. They have full B control. That means they're going to call over Calyx and say, hey man, get over here. Bomb site's clear. Let's get this round over with. Beanox catches off Henyu. That was in towards the mid window. And I mean, this one's cooked. Troglodytes are done. Maybe they get some frags, which is always valuable on that CT side. Gives you an extra $50 across the board, but no frags in sight. Clean sweep for Eternal Fire. As they will take a 3rd round. Guns are back out for the Troglodytes. Round number 5 underway. Again, you want to see that op back in Depression's hands as soon as possible for the Troglodytes, but, you know, M4s across the board isn't too bad. Util situation, not the greatest, but enough to work with. Oh, this is dangerous. That is super dangerous from Drezzy. Walking out in the open, he gets caught out. Jello gets 2 more, and Eternal Fire careless on their push. Utility was not out for CT at all. Now it's up to Amor and Calyx to pull this one back, and they will! Calyx gets 2 and more 1. Smiley and Mikey scratching their heads wondering, why did we let this one slip away? Certainly still within the realm of possibility, but that util dangerous. Smiley gets 1, then Gush down to 42. Believe that one was through the wall, because it's an AK on the other side, but it will be Mikey to finish things off. Troglodytes get a second, even though it looks very scary. Eternal Fire got back in that round when they had no business doing so. Calyx and Amor have looked like the strong pieces so far. But at least Troglodytes making a fight of it. A couple of AK upgrades for them as well. As we move on here, still enough money to get a full buy on the Eternal Fire side. They have the full util belts as well, and they're just going to go fast. I mean, they're taking this mid control very effectively. Nade's going to get tossed in for connector. Catches Mikey for only 1 HP of damage, so it just tickles him there. He's not too fussed. Thing is that those smokes are good, so Eternal Fire going to be getting this mid control. Window smoke fades. Do they have another one to recycle it? Yeah, they do. Amor's got one in his hand, so he's probably going to toss that forward. You would imagine. Ooh, Smiley almost gets caught there, turning his back towards chair, and then a nade thrown in that direction, but really the util's not connecting for much damage on either side at this stage. Great flashbang thrown. Troglodytes capitalize off it. Amor does get the quick trade. Look at this collapse towards mid by Troglodytes. They're trying to get immediate control, but they're denied. Calyx and Amor standing tall once more. 3 frags combined for them again for a 2nd consecutive round, and Amor says, why not a 3rd for myself? Mikey will be lost, and Depression, last one standing through the smoke, catches Calyx. He will turn his back again, and winning the fight against Beanox and CT helps. Problem is he's giving up the B site, and the bomb's going to be planted. 1v2, 15 HP. Odds aren't great. Not great at all. And he will fade off. And I believe the reason Depression gets that frag in the smoke, what I was trying to say before that all unraveled there for Troglodytes, is I think he was bumping into the other player and couldn't move anymore. So like, someone has to be here. Just go for that spam. And it worked out. What doesn't work out is the round as a whole for Troglodytes. Eternal Fire isolating that round victory for Troglodytes for a second straight time throughout this map and putting themselves up to 4.
Terrorists win.
And this is honestly our first look at this Troglodyte squad. They don't have any officials under their belt under this with this current group of players anyway. Sure, you have the ex-Jano core like I mentioned, but Depression and Mikey are coming from different backgrounds. Joining up and seeing how those two cogs fit into the mix. Technical timeout called by Eternal Fire. And Moore and Drezzy have not bought up yet, so maybe an issue there. Oh, yeah. Drezzy disconnecting. So we'll have to wait for him to return. Not sure what the issue is. Well, I'll let you guys know as soon as I find out. Hearing some typing in the server, so I'm not sure if that's an indicator of, oh, he'll be back soon, or there's a big issue here. Had some power failures in the past that have resulted in matches ending a little earlier than teams would like. Let's hope that is not what's happening with Drezzy. And more still in the server, so I imagine this is just a Drezzy issue. Speculating at first with both players not buying up that it could have been each of them having issues, but no, that is not the case. At least we can confirm that, but no further details available just yet. Checking out the chat. Some people cheering on, or at least Jackie cheering on the Finnish squad. Here are the core Finnish squad of the Troglodytes. Henyu, Smiley, and Jello representing that banner. And I see that Drezzy's back, and I heard a lot of typing, so we're likely going to jump right back into it. Here we go. Eternal Fire used to be a fully Turkish squad. Now that has changed with the new additions of Beanox and Max. Coming from Poland. Still hearing typing, which concerns me. That there might be an issue still. But it seems like they're still playing out the round, so should be okay. 1:30 on the clock, let's do it. 2 players towards top mid. Damage has been done in this round, so at the very least we know this one's going to continue on. Beanox, waiting, holding. Depression the only one with the AK charging up aggressively, and he gets punished. That AK's lost and unrecoverable now for the Troglodytes in what was otherwise an eco round. Henyu trying to be cheeky with the Zeus somewhere. Looks like that's ladder room. Actually not a bad spot. Mast could walk into it. Mast. Gonna clear it, Henyu. Ooh, the range is too far. He can't connect on that even if he would have fired it off, and Mast will get the clean frag. Leaving Smiley, Jello, and Mikey with only a nade amongst them and a 5-7. There goes the nade. Mikey's killed. And this will soon be over. Jello with a blue gem 5-7 case. That's a nice skin. But that won't matter in the duel. Beanox takes care of him. And Eternal Fire will win the round 5-2 in their favor. Op is finally back in the hands of Depression. That should help them out. They don't have to worry about it on the other side because they've just been running the AKs for Eternal Fire for the most part. And more will likely run that Op on CT side, but right now he's happy with the way the rifling's going, so why change it up? Smoke's going to get tossed for mid. One for cat, one for mid. Window. Flashes as well. Molotov toss. It's actually a really good job on the side of Mast to make a lot of noise and keep the attention that direction, if only briefly. Could draw out a push into ramp, potentially. Jello, well, not anymore. After those smokes are thrown, Jello's got a forward-facing contact. He's going to try and take the issue in that direction. That's problematic. Yeah, he's gone. Does a lot of damage to Drezzy, but that's it. Only damage. Depression with the op. Connects on one. Could get overloaded soon. He does. 4v3. Trades are really strong for Eternal Fire, and they don't even have to commit to B. They can just go back, to A. They can just go back to B. They leave one behind, that's Beanox. They've attracted all the attention here, and the reason they go back in that direction is because Mast already cleared the site. So they know it's a free plant available for them. No reason to continue taking casualties potentially towards A. Beanox may get some freebies here. We'll see what happens. They'll have to plant the bomb soon to divert attention away from Tetris. Oh, they don't even look. They don't even expect him there. Beanox will get one before he's traded, and Henyu finds him more. So this round's not over, actually. Could have gone a lot better for Eternal Fire in these circumstances. Well, now it's probably done. Henyu gets absolutely erased. Great shot from Mast, and Smiley realizes, yeah, I gotta save this AWP into the next round. Nice kukri knife. Sorry, guys, I'm appreciating the skins. I'm a skins guy. But that is a very nice kukri slaughter. Something else that's very nice is how Eternal Fire has been playing here after losing that opening pistol. 6-1 run since that point. Hear a lot of typing. That indicates, yes, we've lost a more this time. All right. It wasn't the previous case, but now it will be a more. That's off the server, and we'll have to wait for him to return before getting back into the action. Checking out the chat again. Is Beanox back in form? I would say yes. I would agree with chat on that one. I think Beanox is playing exceptionally well right now. Over the last 103 maps, which is a very large sample size, a 1.19 rating leads the squad here on Eternal Fire, which, I mean, not necessarily the one who's been lighting up the scoreboard here, but I mean, I say that. He's up at a 7-6 record. I'm just saying because he's been dying a lot, but he still does lead the squad in terms of frags right now. And everyone's pretty close behind. It's just an even distribution in terms of those frags on Eternal Fire at the moment. Could change at some point, but it's not a bad thing that everyone's finding their mark. Imor is returned to the server, and we're ready to go. Incendiary going to get tossed immediately towards ramp. Eternal Fire trying to continue this run of form. Mikey and Henyu. Ooh, this being watched, Mikey. You might die. Yeah, they're both dead. Calix will take care of Mikey and Henyu. Depression does get one with the AWP that he saved over from that previous round. But now they know where he is, so they're just going to go in the opposite direction. Smiley and Sandwich could do damage here. They're not really clearing it. Nope, they spot him in time. And there goes the op as well. Just like that, in the span of 2 seconds, Eternal Fire gets the last 3 frags and will find themselves a 7th. That being said, that was the eco for Troglodytes. Here comes the buy-up. Things are getting a little desperate for them. Already mentioned it before. Obviously, Eternal Fire are the favorites to come out with victory here up against a newly formed squad that even back when they were the core of Jano did not find any success. And that's why that team no longer exists. So I think there are more questions on the Troglodytes side right now than on the side of Eternal Fire. And if you actually look at the results for Eternal Fire, 4 BO3 win streak, right? Against Alliance, Johnny Speed, Sparta, and Partisan. Look at the util here on the A site, just hearing pops of flashes around every single corner. Troglodytes are completely smoked off. Eternal Fire have control of this site and didn't even need a frag to get it. In fact, Mikey does get the opener here onto Beanox, which isn't too bad for Troglodytes. The problem is they're already going to be in a post-plant situation, and Drezzy may get the jump on Jello. We'll see how he decides to deploy himself, whether he just holds the angle or goes for a swing. There's a flashbang thrown for him. There's the swing. Finds one and fades off without getting traded. Missed shot from Depression will cost his team another body, and now Depression himself falls to dirt. Smiley, last one standing with the A1S in his hands. A 3v1 for Eternal Fire, and again Smiley in a position where he might just have to tuck tail and save the gun. That is exactly what he's doing. Waiting potentially for a duel. But the save is on. Not sure if the op is within reach for him. I don't think so. Might get blown in his direction, perhaps? No. Too far gone, and it will be Eternal Fire finding an 8th. That gun round not working out for Troglodytes, and not really many frags as well, so you don't get that big bonus, or not big bonus, but significant amount of money that you could have added to your bank accounts. Means that money is tough for utility. At the very least, they get the A1Ss across the board, but util will only be full belts for Jello and Smiley. Henyu has none, and Depression only has 1. Bear in mind that extra 150 would have been flashes for both Smiley and Henyu, and then an extra flash for Mikey. It makes a difference if you can frag all the players on that CT side. Or I should say from the CT side, T side. Anyway, let's get back to the action. Drezzy gets the opener onto Henyu. Calix trades out a frag for Mikey. 4v3, good line held by Depression. He has to be careful of this player below him, and that smoke actually helps him stay alive. Then he jumps through it and gets Calix. Great play from Depression. A 3-piece on the board. Beanox the last one standing. Bomb control in the hands of Troglodytes, but now maybe Eternal Fire. What a shot from Beanox to end that run of form for Depression and bring this one back within reach. He's got plenty of time because of how quickly all that action went down here. 52 seconds left to find a path forward. Problem is, Troglodytes know the bombs here. Be careful about how he takes these duels. Wins the first, but not the second. Jello with the insta trade, exactly how they drew it up. And the Troglodytes do manage to salvage a round victory out of a half that won't go their way already, but at least will prevent Eternal Fire from getting into double digits, even if Eternal Fire isolate this round victory for Troglodytes again. And look at this, Eternal Fire on T side of Mirage. Double op setup. That is not something you see very often. Usually you'll see it on CT side, but T side? I mean, it can work, don't get me wrong. It's just not something that perhaps in a situation where you lose a couple of bodies and it's 2 ops standing, you find yourself able to work back into. Anyway, getting ahead of myself. Let's see what they can do. Mast has already been taken down to 9 HP, though. Here come the AKs. Jello waiting underneath balcony. Mikey guarding him. It's actually a really good setup for Troglodytes. Eternal Fire needs to be careful. There goes Drezzy. Lost towards mid, and Depression finds Beanox. This is one of the best starts Troglodytes have had to a round in quite some time. Calix has slipped through. And then he gets that headshot on Depression. That's actually a really good play. Here comes the Molotov underneath balcony. Trying to pull it back here as Calix. So much damage done through the balcony wood panels, and eventually the nade only collects 3 HP of damage. Jello being pressed upon by Amor. Amor can't hit that final shot. So many bullets rain in that direction, but because he can't close it out quickly enough, Calix loses the fight to Mikey. Wow. Lock smoke as well for Mikey. Mass still managing to get the off out to get that frag onto Henyu, and things getting a little dicey on this A site, but there's no time for Eternal Fire to rotate. They have to commit to this. 25 seconds and a rotation with 0 control, and this is all going to be heard by Mikey. Yeah, I mean, yes, you can make it to the bomb site in time, but it felt like the commitment had to happen, and that's why. Mast gone. Imor should get the plant right down the wire. It'll be very, very close. Maybe not. Yeah, no, definitely not. Has to go for the fights. There's no point in planting the bomb. Imor, and he loses the round. That's going to do it. Yeah. I mean, they had to get a move on sooner because they were engaged there by the A1S. Slowed down just a touch with the aim punch. I think that's the difference between making it to the bomb site and planting and not. Eternal Fire making a poor choice there in that last round, but either way, Troglodytes have to be credited for their defense as well. I mean, they held them off nicely. A nice setup between balcony and jungle, kind of a high, I want to say a high-low, because you have Mikey watching high, and underneath the balcony, you have the player watching low, and even able to contribute above as well. So, yeah, very nicely done, but still a daunting scoreline to stare down on, and with Eternal Fire switching over to the CT side of Mirage. Just looking purely at the numbers on Mirage for Eternal Fire. Yeah, that's exactly what I remembered. CT round win percentage, 58.6% on Eternal Fire versus 51% on T side. So they are better on the CT side by a significant margin. This is not going to get any easier for the Troglodytes, who, when they were known as Jano, struggled on this map quite handily. They typically did have better T sides, but not by much. It's just so hard to look back on those stats and look at them as a reliable source of information, only because this is back at the beginning of 2025, right? Mostly in May was when they played on Mirage, between May 1st and May 29th. Yeah, the whole month of May. Only one win in that span up against Nordics, 13-1. Outside of that, all losses. All right, well, let's see what the Troglodytes can do on their T side. They will take control of this B site quite nicely. Depression finds two and more, and Calyx gone almost a third there as well. Mass lucky to be alive. Great work from Depression. This is why I'm saying looking at those results might not mean that much, because Depression and Mast are the unknowns who weren't there. Depression, a third. Not even a lightly damaged player. Now on for the ace. Beanox, last one standing. Oh my goodness, he's so dead. And you takes care of it. Hunkered down in jungle and nothing to do but die. Troglodytes will get the pistol and take a fifth. But, if you recall correctly, Troglodytes did get the pistol in the first half as well. And then lost immediately afterwards. And then Eternal Fire went on a 6-1 run. So, Troglodytes are hoping that won't be the case here. And, of course, Eternal Fire are forcing, which is right now the meta, is to force up after the pistol round loss. Even on T side, if you don't get the plant, teams are forcing up now because success has been very high in those types of circumstances. Maybe it is a testament to that peeker's advantage that CS2 has introduced compared to CSGO. But whatever the case may be, force buys are much more potent. Pistol rounds are not as much of a guaranteed conversion as they used to be. Anyway, Depression, we'll get the first on Calyx. There's a more with the scout. Jello God. 4v4. Depression needs to be careful. Those deagles are really scary. And now Beanox has tucked himself into top balcony. Henyu does manage to take out Mass, but there's Beanox activating from that cubby. Smiley and Mikey do get a couple back. That should bring things back under control, but it is Beanox we're talking about here, and he's managed to get an AK in his hands. That said, he couldn't get into a good position, and Mikey will run him down with the MAC-10. So Troglodytes do indeed convert off the pistol. Gap closed to only 2 rounds. Eternal Fire on the eco. 3 deagles and a 5-7 purchased up. The only one with armor is Beanox, and, well, Drezzy's already gone. This is likely a foregone conclusion that Troglodytes will win the round, especially after finding that opener. It's just always those deagles that are the unknown quantity. Very quickly can they turn around in your favor. Even the 5-7s. As we see Beanox getting that 5-7 frag. What did I tell you? Calyx on the deagle gets that shot on Smiley, but Henyu and Jello, again, will settle things down for Troglodytes. And even though Mast is surrounded, he still manages to get a second frag. So while they do win the round, Troglodytes, that's an additional $150 gain for Eternal Fire just off those frags on an eco round. That'll help their utility be a lot stronger in this next, and you already see it. I honestly think that's one of the best changes Valve have made to CS2 since its release. And in the MR12 environment that we found ourselves in, is just giving CTs the opportunity to build up a lot more economy, right? We could say, I say a lot, but it's a bit more, but it ends up being a lot more if you pull together, say, 3 rounds in a row. That's $750 that you can build up if you're fragging the entire T side. Anyway, look, it just makes a difference in the long run. Calyx and Beanox are going to get a couple here for Eternal Fire. And Moore finds Mikey, and this first gun round is looking clean. Drezzy onto Henyu, leaves Jello on an island, and Jello will get one back, but he's still in a 1v3 situation with half health, and the only piece of utility, a Molotov. Well, there might be some dropped around him, and there was a nade in his hands. It won't matter. And Moore spots him out with the op, and now he's rocking and rolling with the big green, as we expected on CT side. 12 frags for him, 9-7 for Eternal Fire, who finally strike in this second half of action. Troglodytes looking at the money situation, we'll have to settle for a couple of Tech 9s, you'd imagine, to make sure the util can come out. And even though they win the round, Eternal Fire still call a timeout to talk things over. In that first half, when the guns came out, it was pretty much Eternal Fire taking control. I mean, yes, Troglodytes get a couple on the tail end of the half, which is good. You know, it kind of gives them that momentum heading into the beginning of the second half to get that pistol, convert off of it. But now is the true test, honestly. Can Troglodytes get back into this map? Or will Eternal Fire take their map pick away and then head on to their strong suit? Excuse me, I think that's incorrect at the top. This looks like it was the map pick of Eternal Fire, folks. So yeah, it would be Eternal Fire winning their map pick. And then Troglodytes picking into Dust 2. Still, Dust 2 is a map that Eternal Fire are comfortable on, so I don't know that's necessarily a disadvantage for them. But we'll talk about that when we get there. 1:02 on the clock. Troglodytes holding on to their util for now. Henyu sprayed down to 20. This Palace player could be really impactful. We'll see if that happens. If the timing is right. 45 seconds left. Looks like Troglodytes are making their move. Calyx lines up 2 for 1 with the AK. Even gets the third afterwards onto Mikey. Smiley picks up the AK off the ground but finds himself all alone in a duel against 4 Eternal Fire members. They've spotted him, now surrounding him, a flank materializing. Smiley has to have his head on a swivel. He knows that. Looking back and forth, trying to locate the players, but Drezzy will win the day. Calm, cool, and collected. Eternal Fire find double digits. Troglodytes unable to do anything on a buy round means that this one is absolutely an eco. Everyone's sitting at the 2K mark. $2,400 loss bonus. You can't even justify investing into anything. It's going to have to be the Glocks. And that is the case. $0 spent for Troglodytes. Which means if they get a round victory, that's fantastic, right? But it's so difficult to achieve under these circumstances. Seen it before. Can't write it off completely, but very low percentage chance. Not sure if that's what Amor wanted to do. It probably was, because he's thinking maybe they're trying to get a boost in, so he throws that Molotov on the windowsill. He's just debating if he wanted that to go in more for underpass or not, but seems like it went to plan. There's the underpass molly, thrown from Cat. Calyx will peek off of it. Oh, Calyx sees 4 players. Says, no. That's no good, guys. They're stacked up in underpass. Let's not push that. But they will take mid control off of it, which you absolutely should, given how much information was gained there. The one snake in the grass is Henyu with the bomb. They're trying to pull the attention off of the A site to allow Henyu to get the plant, because that is essentially their mission right here. Get that extra $600 in the bank, and then whatever happens in the round happens. Oh, knives out for a couple of players there, and Drezzy's like, okay, freebies, I'll feast away on these frags. More. Oh my goodness. Just staring down me like, okay, I'll let him punch in a couple of numbers, and then I'll fire off the hop and finish this round. Oh, man. 11-7 for Eternal Fire. Troglodytes thought they might have had it. Thought they might have gotten that bomb plant, but no. Amora was there to dash their hopes. Two more rounds, and Eternal Fire will be sending us to Dust 2. Troglodytes, AK's out, full loss bonus in effect. A bomb plant would ensure they'll be able to buy comfortably in the next one, and a round victory, of course, does exactly the same. Oh, what a flash from Calyx, but a great trade on back from Troglodytes. Thing is, we're going back and forth right now. Drezzy, oh, clothesline, Smiley, looks for a follow-up too. Can't get it, but damage done to Mikey, who's down to 45 HP. 2v2, Mask getting aggressive. I love this play. I love this play. Mask gonna get one Mikey with a wicked flick on back, but Calyx is right there for the final trade. A very back and forth round there, but Eternal Fire reigns supreme, and we'll get a 12th on the board. One more, and they've got this, and 5 opportunities at it. Troglodytes, desperate, forcing up whatever they can. No bomb plant means AKs are not a possibility for everyone. Have to go for those Galeals to at least get a decent amount of util. Not even full util for Troglodytes. Window smoke thrown, cat smoke as well, which means they're going to try and work their way around this. Maybe see what's happening at mid. Bomb has been dropped outside of the T apartments. While 2 players are trying to work their way in. Mast, ooh, this is a good spot. He has to be careful. Beanox supporting. He's got the util. Throws the smoke in to recycle that. This makes the spot a little better for Mask because he's closer to that smoke. So they're only going to see him at the last second as opposed to having a bit more of a gap and breathing room between the spot and the shots being fired. But Mask says, you know what? This spot is stale. Let's back off to plat. Calyx finding that frag on Jello will put the pressure on Mikey and Henyu to potentially push up here. Oh no! I forgot they don't have the bomb. That's the bomb spotted as well by Calyx. So Mask is like, okay, maybe I'll push up. Well, he won't have that choice. Mikey will take his head off. Thing is, now they know that no one's around the bomb, and Troglodytes have to double back this round heavily in favor of Eternal Fire, even though we're sitting at a 3v3. Now a 3v2. Mikey and Henyu, what do? It's such a difficult fight to take back. They're going to go from different angles and hope that approach works out for them. But 28 seconds left. You don't have the luxury of waiting. You have to go. Henyu. Speaking of waiting, they're waiting for him. Good trade from Imor. Leaves only Mikey standing, who will win one duel 1v1. 15 seconds left. It has to be a win in the fight. He has no choice. No time to plant the bomb, and Imor, good for it. There it is. Eternal Fire close out the map 13-7 in the gun rounds. They absolutely looked like the better team. No doubt about it, even though those last few were actually pretty interesting in terms of the back and forth. But the little mistakes costing Troglodytes. In that round, losing the bomb on the back lines. That's honestly the reason why they lose that, because they look pretty good on the forward-facing fight to be. They win that cleanly. If the bomb's on their backs there, they get a plant, and the pressure's going to be on Eternal Fire. But instead, not having that bomb, Eternal Fire were picked. Now we go to Dust 2, the pick of this ex-Jano squad, now known as Troglodytes. Just looking back on their stats previously, again, we have to keep in mind that, Depression's in the mix here. As well as Mikey, as opposed to that entire ex-Jano squad. So that can change things, especially because Depression actually looked pretty good individually on Mirage. So maybe he can pop off on Dust 2 and help this team find a victory on that map. But still, it was 1-8 6 months ago for Jano on Dust 2. So they didn't have the results they were hoping for. And you look on the other side for Eternal Fire, who had a very good run of form lately. Their numbers on Dust 2, obviously not as great as the rest of the maps because it's not one they pick into, but still 9-10, almost at the 500 mark, and are actually running a 3-game win streak there up against Senza, Copenhagen Wolves, and Alliance. We're going to have to wait a little bit longer before we get there, guys. We're going to hit the break. When we come back, Dust 2.
Blindsided, I trusted, fell for you. What a stupid thing to do. Blindsided, high hopes, but they fell away the moment you lied to me. Blindsided, misguided, led astray, trusted too easy. Blindsided, strung out on the smallest string, had me questioning everything. I don't know where I am now. Pedestal I had you on is crumbling down on the ground. It was all illusion. Where do I go now? How do I hear your voice
All right, we're into the action here on Dust 2 between Eternal Fire and the Troglodytes. This is a map that the old Jano core did like to play a lot. So no surprise to see it come through here. The question is, can they defeat an Eternal Fire squad that, well, historically, they have not looked good on Dust 2. Technically, since Beanox has become part of the roster, and I would say in recent times, because he was part of the roster for quite some time, for 103 maps, it's a lot, it's really come together for them. Winning 5 of their last 6, Ho2, the only loss, 9-13, but they beat 3D Max Academy, Partisan, Senza, Copenhagen Wolves, and Alliance. And it looks like, unfortunately, we have a tech pause still. And that's going on here as we're waiting to get everything resolved. It was going to go live. And it's just like it looks like it's just some ping issues, I'm being told. So we're going to get things sorted very, very quickly. It won't be long until we're into the action. But yeah, we can talk more about Dust 2. On the Xjano side, as mentioned, not that great for them. Typically better on their CT sides. Their T sides were the weakness back then. And towards the tail end of their run as part of that squad, did have some decent performances, obviously still losses, but it was 10-13, so they went 23 rounds against Johnny Speeds, and then overtime against Ents Academy and Bax. Again, these are Ents Academy and Bax from 4 months ago. Might not be the same teams now, but still. Those were 14-16 losses for Jano at the time. As we continue to wait here, how are you guys feeling in chat about the Genesis terminal? Huh? It's not the best of releases from Valve. I would say that, it's one that I think was an experiment. We'll see how it goes in the long run, but I feel like there might be some good elements there in terms of changing the way things are unboxed, but also some poor ones. The dynamic pricing, I don't know how I feel about that. Maybe some set pricing that's a lot lower depending on tier of item. Anyway, that's just my feelings on it, guys. It looks like we're going to have to head to another break. This won't be a quick solution. We'll be back in just a moment. All right, here we go. It's live. Went to the magic break, and things were resolved, of course, as soon as we went to break. Here we go. Eternal Fire up against Troglodytes. Smiley charging up Cat. Troglodytes hoping to get off to that quick start they had on Mirage, and, well, they're going to have full control of A. This is Eternal Fire stacked on the B site. It was the wrong site to stack, and Troglodytes will get a plant, and a lot of comfort zone here. Is there a kit? There is not. No kit and a large rotation required here for Eternal Fire. Depression and Jello waiting at Cat. They've got a player top mid. Trades are okay right now for Eternal Fire. Now that makes it even better with Mass finding a second one. Back and forth we continue to go, and Eternal Fire hanging on for the time being in a 2v2. Bomb ticking away and a full defusal with a full 10-second defusal required, and looks like it's not even going to be a possibility. Beanox will get pushed off. Still has the armor and won't anymore. Smiley the headshot. Troglodytes, despite losing that map of Mirage 13-7, they've won every single pistol round. It's their third in a row. Crazy to think that they've been this good on pistols, but have been unable to really do anything with it once the guns come out. Force buy on for Eternal Fire. You can't blame them for that because in that first half pistol after they lost, they immediately bounced back and were able to string a lot of rounds together to put the pressure on. Mast. Pushing up a little bit. Oof. Takes a lot of damage now. Shouldn't say a lot. It took a little bit of damage. And now, Mikey going to get a trade up against Mast. So that's pretty good. 4v4. Troglodytes, obviously the favorite team to take this round with the AKs up. Mixed in with the Galil's Phoenix. It's a good fight. It's a good fight to take. Almost wins it. But he gets fragged out by Smiley. And Moore, on the other hand, will win against Mikey on the other side of the map. And this is getting interesting again on these force buys for Eternal Fire. Depression catches off Drezzy getting a little eager, and I think they know Moore's here. They're just waiting for him to peek. Is there a nade available? Smiley's got it. Oh, this is free. This is free for Smiley. It has to be. Just throw the nade in. You got it. Instead, he creeps up, and Henyu takes care of business through the box. Last one standing, Calyx. But it should be a conversion for Troglodytes off of the pistol round victory. Oh, there's one. Maybe I'll take that back. Oh, there we go. Okay, Depression gets Calyx. As soon as he picked up the skull, I'm like, oh, if they give him enough room. But they don't. Troglodytes will convert. At least Eternal Fire doing damage, which helps their economy in the long run. But right now, they are on to the Eco, getting some upgraded pistols, and that's it. 4 Deagles and a 5.7. Made that 3 Deagles, a 5.7 and a P250. Drezzy decided he did not want to go all in on the pistol, would rather have had the pistol and the nade and still stay above the 2K mark. Amor charging in aggressively. Oh, that's a beautiful shot and a conversion from Amor. Smiley eliminated 5v4 in the first 10 seconds of the round. Depression trying to change that quickly. Jumps down, finds Amor after getting B-knocks up top of Cat. And now it'll be a 4v3 in favor of Troglodytes. Presence towards A is much heavier for Eternal Fire than B. And unfortunately for Eternal Fire, Troglodytes are going to that B site. Calyx misses the first shot, his position known. Mikey will take care of that. And the round probably done now. Drezzy has got that line of Navi stickers at the top of his P250. Trying to channel their energy into this match. But as it stands, this round is going the way of the Troglodytes. Drezzy, nice shot, at least, onto Henyu. Again, you know, damage matters. Frags are important. Grabs the AK. Trying to win another fight. Does so. If he had a kid, I would argue maybe he'd try to go for the bomb, but he doesn't. So just saving this AK and getting frags is absolutely valuable. They're going to hear the footsteps long. He's having a peek behind him. Yeah, I don't think you want to engage with Drezzy right now if you're Troglodytes. Your money isn't stabilized yet. Yes, you're going to have a decent amount to work with in the next round, but keep the guns. They keep hunting. They don't care. Drezzy keeps the AK. And here comes the buy. Again, you know, 3 frags for Eternal Fire, another 150 added to their bank accounts, which will help their utility buy up immensely. And you're probably going to see full util for everyone. If not everyone, then most players. And there it is, only a couple of pieces missing. An op-out as well into Amor's hands, 3 A1Ss and the AK. Troglodytes do have those 2 conversions off a pistol as they got in the second half of Mirage. But they're going to need more than that here. Mass, the first victim. Henyu the second, despite the flashbang sailing in and making life difficult for him. Finally, Amor will put him down. Lot of work on Amor's shoulders. Hits the second through the smoke and simultaneously Drezzy finds Depression on the lurk. That is fantastic from the IGL and Opper for Eternal Fire. Looked like things would get out of control with Henyu's 2 openers. A 5v3 for the Troglodytes that disappears before they can even think about how to work with it. Now they fade off towards B, but look at the space that Drezzy's taken into the upper tunnels. In fact, I'm imagining he's just going to hang out lower than hear the footsteps in upper. That would be the best play to make right now. If he pushes too far, could give up too much map control. Now he's going to head back into upper. They're going to be looking for this. Oh, Drezzy. Timing. Maybe actually be beneficial for him. We'll see. Will he spot the backs of these players as they go into B? No. But he's suspicious that something has happened here. Once he hears that smoke, yeah, that's the information he needs. Full on flank here. Could get both if he plays his cards right. Probably just going to try and deny the bomb plant at this stage, though. There we go. Bomb plant denied. Second player on car. Troglodytes don't have much time left. Now they're just going to try and flush him out. Smiley gets one. You really don't have to aggress until he tries planting the bomb if you're Eternal Fire. And that's what they're going to realize, I imagine, eventually. Ooh. There we go. Tries to punch in the numbers. That won't happen. Calyx finishes him off, and that will do it. Eternal Fire strike back and get on the board. Because of how close those first 3-round victories were for Troglodytes, I think they only had 2 players standing, or left standing in every single round. Their money situation is poor. I mean, yes, you can get an AK and maybe a Galil in this round, but Smiley, Henyu, and Depression have to save. They're just going to go for the hero AK for Mikey because I guess they want to make sure that AWP is out in the next round. Makes sense. But this is that window back in to the half for Eternal Fire. Drezzy gets the opener on Henyu. This is where it's going to happen at Cat, though, and Mikey does manage to keep that AK alive and fragging, but there's still a man down. A gun may be available. I thought they might be able to pick it up, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen. Troglodytes readjusting their attention towards this B site. And Eternal Fire have 2 players on both A and B, so they're fine. Mikey's going to have to do the heavy lifting with the AK-47. Calyx holding the line from barrels. Depression's Deagle and the AK could do damage to Calyx here. Oh, but they don't clear him at all. They go for Car instead, and Drezzy's right there to deal the damage to one, but Mikey's still alive. Does it with the AK. 2 frags to his name in that engagement, and 3 overall in the round. Mikey trying to clutch this out by his lonesome. Dust 2 has been far more competitive here between these 2 squads so far than Mirage was. And more unmasked. Looking to work their way back in. They do have the kit. Nice incendiary toss for Big Box. That allows a lot less cover for Mikey, and Amor jumps around the corner, hits Mikey through the box, and that is more than enough with the AWP to take care of business. Defusal comes through. Second round for Eternal Fire. Still very nicely fought on the side of Troglodytes, right? Because they only bring an AK into that round, and Mikey is set up multiple times to win engagements, with the pistols kind of taking the brunt of the damage and allowing him to freewheel a little bit. And now their actual buy-up comes through, so it keeps the CT economy more honest and gives Troglodytes a chance to reinforce their lead. Oh, what a catch from Amor, though. Henyu trying to jump around in towards Dark, gets caught. It's already a 5v4 for Eternal Fire. Troglodytes were thinking about going fast into B, but with that util raining in, they're like, oh, that's not a great idea. Plus, they don't have the bomb yet. Drezzy's waiting lower. They're only looking for the boost up to Cat. Oh, he lines him up, gets one and the second. Depression and Mikey eliminated. Smiley pulls up the util. Ooh, well, ends up picking out to Drezzy out of the crowd, but Calyx will get the immediate trade. And Mask gets the last on Smiley, so we're back to the Eternal Fire seemingly dominant rounds. 4 players survive, tied up at 3, and I think, again, the concern probably starts to rear its head in the back of Troglodyte's mind, thinking, well, we're winning pistols, we're getting conversions off pistols, but as soon as the real gun rounds come in, we're not able to get round victories. And this is the bad trend, let's say. I know it's still a relatively new roster with Depression and Mikey joining up. Obviously, you're hoping for better results than maybe you're getting at this stage. Anyway, Mikey's going to get one onto Mask, but he's the last one standing after Depression falls right by his side. Good flashbang toss, but the nade's going to be a lot better, although Mikey survives and gets another one, and a third. Mikey, what is going on? He is pulling off some crazy stuff with this Tech 9, picks up the Deagle, doesn't expect Drezzy to be there, so the round will be over, but Mikey has really pulled off some incredible individual performances here. And maybe if, well, I mean, Depression's already doing pretty well for himself, but if those two guys can get together and make something happen on this T side of Dust 2, then perhaps there's still a possibility of the Troglodytes getting back into this series. It's asking a lot, though, given how well Eternal Fire has been playing lately. I already talked about it multiple times. They're doing that without Beanox, right? Fragging out, I should say, because he's only sitting at 2 frags, but Drezzy's got 10. Recently re-added to the roster, right, because they weren't happy with Mary's performance, so Drezzy gets a second chance at life on this roster, and obviously that'll invigorate him to keep that spot and show that it wasn't a mistake re-adding him. Smiley catches off Calyx. Now Moore will get the instant trade. Good job for Moore to hang around long enough to get that trade. Knife fades back towards the B site. Nice headshot from Jello. Space gained, and he gets the follow-up on Drezzy. And Moore and Mass, last two standing. Mass does take some damage, but he manages to get that frag onto Jello, and then he'll fade off into the distance. He's waiting for a Moore to strike. That nade is so good. Oh, the damage done. Mikey on notice along with Henyu. They can't plant the bomb just yet. It delays them further. Allows Mass to come through and strike on Mikey. No way Eternal Fire still managed to pull this off after that work from Jello from Cat. Henyu still alive on site, but he's gone too. Moore was caught off, but it's a 1v1 Masked versus Depression. Throws the smoke onto the bomb. A great nade! Depression fragged out with a second nade that was available on the ground. Mask doing it with the util. And Eternal Fire pull the round back and get a 5th. What a play from Mask, not just there, but overall in the round. The way he starts it out, gets that first at long, fades all the way back to allow Emor the space to move in and activate himself. Then he activates again, catches off another player from long, and moves his way to the site to help him more, and eventually himself in clutching things out. Unbelievable work. And this just gets even more scary for the Troglodytes, because like, well, we already had to worry, like I said before, about Beanox, but he's not doing that well, but everyone else is. Goodness me. I mean, you get the bomb plant, you have the lost ones, you can buy the AKs, but eventually you need these gun rounds to start going a little bit better, especially when you're working with man advantages. A little bit of util dump there for Eternal Fire down Cat. Smoking an aid. Just trying to keep Troglodytes on their toes, but this time Eternal Fire not going to get aggressive. Smoke get thrown for CT and left side mid. This is more common now to allow more space for the mid players to work out of. As it stands, so this isn't bad for Troglodytes. 4 players going into the boards to B site. Only 2 there for Eternal Fire. Drezzy and Calyx get 3 combined, though, before they fall. That'll make it a 3v2 advantage, not to mention damage done towards Mikey. He's only at 15 HP, limping along in the upper tunnels. Mass walking out with his knife, spots out the player, but they both had their knives out. Now Mikey comes back, rifle v rifle, and Mass will win it handily. Only Depression left, and he falls to the op of Emor. Again, another very nicely played round from Eternal Fire. Troglodytes made the right call. 4 players charging in from the tunnels, 1 from mid, to try and put the pressure on the B site that was isolated thanks to those smokes. The problem was Drezzy and Calyx getting 3 frags before they fall. That makes it so much easier for the retake, right? Especially considering that Mikey was taken down to 14 HP, an easy target, very awkward engagement between himself and Mast in the tunnels, but in the end, it's still pretty clean for Mast because of the damage his teammates did prior to that. And then Depression, he's on an island and nothing much he can do. So, 6th found for Eternal Fire, not forgetting 6 in a row. Ooh, a messy spray from Mast, but still gets the frag, so job done. And he will take up the space at long. Henyu, maybe spamming through the doors wouldn't be a bad idea at this stage. Mass just going to wait with that smoke. In fact, he's going to toss it in with the nade. So, half health damage to Henyu. That one landed right on the money. And Drezzy catches depression, lacking on his clears. Gives his team the 5v3. Now Mass is going to activate it on a flank. And more collects onto Mikey. This is all roses for Eternal Fire. This is free. Freebie. Mast finding Jello, and then Drezzy takes out Henyu, who's panicking, realizing there's a player on his flank. Eternal Fire! All 5 players left standing, money building up immensely, and a 7th round in a row. Looking purely at the numbers, by the way, Mast is not the player you look towards to pop off. I mean, 0.94 rating. He's a supporting player. He's setting teammates up for utility and just trying to pitch in when he can. But this has been incredible performance from him. Eventually he falls here, but look again, the damage that he does up against 2 players. That softens up this Troglodytes push. As Drezzy will catch Henry more with the op. He's been so sharp with the big green. Collects onto depression. 4v3. Felt like something was going to happen for the Troglodytes here, but now they're just kind of stuck at long. And the information's there for Eternal Fire, so they're just waiting on the other side. Phoenox doesn't allow Jello nor Smiley to take a step further. In fact, that was Emor that collected onto Smiley. Overkill from the AWP. Mikey continues to tap, hoping to connect on something, but in the end, he gives up his position, and Beanox will get the easy spam through the smoke. Eternal Fire absolutely crushing the hopes of the Troglodytes right now. 8-round victories in a row, looking to make it 9. Drezzy, why not? This triple op, it's a triple op setup. We never see that in MR12, and it's working. All 3 oppers collect a frag. Troglodytes just walking into the crosshairs unknowingly. Oh my goodness. Eternal Fire being very cheeky right now, but that's what the confidence will do, and the money they had afforded to them. They honestly can just go pick up the rifles afterwards if the ops don't work out. They're likely sitting on the ground, or they probably should have bought them. But either way, Beanox through the smoke, gets Jello. This round is toast. And on the other side, the Troglodytes are the ones being toasted. Cooked to a very fine crisp. An Eternal Fire, 9 rounds in a row. Whew. That was tough for Troglodytes. And I mentioned at the beginning, it felt like it was going back and forth. Things were kind of more competitive from the Troglodytes. The problem was that once those guns came out, Eternal Fire just absolutely stomped them. Sure, we had our closer rounds that were back and forth, but that was few and far between. It was mostly that, which we just saw in that last round of the half that was happening. So, and not to mention, Troglodytes, perfect on pistols. Perfect on pistols. And have picked up a total of 10 rounds so far, combined across both maps. Whew. Suffice to say, given those stats, they probably need pistol to be competitive in this half. If they don't get that, we could be done with this series very, very quickly. Unless things change dramatically. Jello getting aggressive, going to the upper tunnels, being held by him more. Dualies will win it out, and there's the second one. The pistol rounds continue to start off beautifully for the Troglodytes. At least they have that figured out. Still not over, though. Calyx forces Mikey back. Looks like it'll be an A finish. Mikey collects 2 more. Pistol round stay clean for the Troglodytes. Mass, no bomb. Likely no chance of coming back into this one. There's one frag. Needs 2 more to be very clean in order to have a chance of this round. All they have to do is charge towards them more than likely. There we go. Depression takes care of business with the unsilenced USP. Don't see that often, but he chooses to go in that direction, and Mast falls. There we go. Troglodytes perfect on pistols, but unable to get beyond double digits on Mirage, and it looks like that may be the case here too on Dust 2. Now, no bomb plan for Eternal Fire. 9-4 lead. I think that's the only reason they don't force, because if this was a little bit closer, I'd be surprised if they opted just to go with the Glocks and the upgraded Deagle. Instead, yeah, they don't have any reason to press the panic button, and they want those rifles out as soon as possible, especially considering how dominant they've been when it's been rifles versus rifles. So why not give it a crack here with just a lone Deagle? See if the Glocks can collect something. Depression the opener. Mass does get one. Ooh, a second one would be really spicy. Okay, Beanox finds that second. Deagle picked up off the ground again. There are some guns to recover as well if they can get close enough to them. Mikey tosses that nade, and there goes a more. Not enough health to survive that. And it's only Beanox left, who won't get anything else. Mikey finds the last, and at least they make it a little expensive for the Troglodytes, but actually it's not too bad at all because it was 2 MP9s that are lost, and now they'll be running into this round with rifles for everyone. Eternal Fire on the other side will have AKs for all as well. So here we go, Troglodytes. This is your chance to start proving that you can ball with Eternal Fire. Incendiary going to get tossed in towards Upper B tunnels. Flashbangs for long, so Troglodytes for the time being have some pretty good long control. I think they're going to want to keep a player deeper in. Yeah, there we go. Into pit. Jello goes. In the meantime, Eternal Fire trying to work around this mid control they've afforded for themselves. Cat is pretty vulnerable here. And I think Mikey realizing that says, okay, I've got to keep an eye on this. Molotov gets tossed in. There's Depression striking with the op onto a more. Not an op v op duel, but at the very least, a good opening frag for Troglodytes to find. Drezzy trying to bait out a peek here. Or at least some more util usage, and he does exactly that, although he eats a bit of damage from that nade. Eternal Fire biding their time. Depression looking the wrong way. He's looking up instead of low. Flicks down and misses the shot. Calyx finds that response for Eternal Fire. Still 45 seconds left. This may just be a fake towards A. I'm not 100% convinced they're going this direction. Oh, Mikey being cheeky in the smoke now. Flash is tossed out. Now they're going to commit. I should have been convinced. The problem is, look who's here. Mikey out of the smoke gets one. Penyu as well. It's a 2v3. Eternal Fire not out of this one just yet, but time is against them. Penyu peeks around the corner, gets the information. Great flashbang by Smiley in support. Leaving it all up to Calyx, who gets 2 and turns it into a 1v1. 12 seconds left. Does he know where Smiley is? He does not. He has to try and rush to plant the bomb or go for the fight. He goes straight for the fight. Looks the wrong way, and Smiley hangs on by the skin of his teeth to give Troglodytes a round victory. It was expensive. It didn't come easy, but they finally get one on a gun round. And it's an important one because Eternal Fire had just gotten their guns in their hands. That's probably the first time in this series that Troglodytes have been able to respond that quickly and capitalize off a pistol round. That being said, Eternal Fire will be going for a half buy around a Hero AK. Troglodytes didn't get to build up much economy off that previous round, so again, it's important that they keep the majority of their players alive and win the round, both of which are not foregone conclusions. Nice nade. Collects a little bit of damage onto Beanox and Calyx. Depression did hit a nice one to open things up against him more in the previous round, but then died afterwards after missing the flick. And actually, this is problematic. These pistols are probably going to try and collapse on him. He's got his rifler supporting him, and Mikey getting aggressive. Nice nades from Henyu and Depression, but there's Depression gone. As mentioned, the pistols do collapse off of those two Smokestorm from mid. Now Mikey, he's been so good individually. He tries to strike and is effective to get another player. Problem is that I don't feel like they've really regained mid at all. It's still a huge gap in their defensive lines. I mean, yes, you have Cat and you have long control, but mid is wide open. So now you can apply the pressure. Drezzy's probably not going to believe what he sees. Like, why is no one there? He expects them to be. So leave one player outside of B double doors. The other two go in from tons. Smiley pops his head up. Needs to be careful. Oh, misses the spray. Now Henyu's on notice. Does get Beanox, who's trying to aggress from the doors. And the follow-up. Henyu individually at least making this possible. And now, yes, it will be converted upon. Mikey, the last. As those two get a full house of frags. Troglodytes finally get a couple of rounds in a row on gun rounds, which I think that did happen once on Mirage at the end of the first half, where they got 2 rounds against Eternal Fire to make it 4 instead of the 2 they had prior. But it didn't end up making much of a difference. Now this time it's getting interesting, and it forces the call of a timeout here from Eternal Fire. 4 AKs and the op. They know it's important here to get around on the board. Otherwise, you allow the Troglodytes to get back into it. And I think the one thing that could be potentially a little bit comforting for Eternal Fire is they've made each of those previous 2 rounds very difficult for the Troglodytes. I mentioned they needed 3 or more players surviving in that previous one. I don't think that happens. I think there was only 2 that lived through it. And you see the money is taking a toll on them. Like the fact that they can't build up their economy. Oh, Henyu, getting aggressive here. Has to be careful. He's got the support of his opper. An aggressive position for them to hold, but I guess you got to take those risks when things aren't really going your way in a series to try and gain the edge. They will fall off of that setup before it's punished, although Depression does take a decent amount of damage. Nice flashbang that nullifies the op player. Or I should say the Cat player, who does have the op. Molotov going to get tossed forward. So much map control gained there just off that Molotov and flash, and now Drezzy gets the frag onto Depression. Op factor eliminated. Mikey still on site with the A1S, gets the first. He seems to be the biggest problem right now for Eternal Fire, and they're isolating him with Util. Hits another headshot. Still alive here is Mikey, putting on so much pressure, they can't get rid of him. Mikey swings around for a third. And it's down to Amor and Calyx. 52 seconds remain. They're trying to deviate themselves, redirect their attention towards CT. Henyu spotted out. Amor's now on the line with the AWP. 41 seconds remain, but they don't have the bomb. Even if they win this fight CT, where are you going to go? I mean, it just feels like a mission to save at this point. Eventually, Henyu collects Calyx and Moore gets 1, but yeah, ends up being a save for Eternal Fire. And Mikey, the key to victory, individually has been the most impressive player here on Dust 2, and even had his moments on Mirage. But wow, 3 from that position, default site, and he's not cleared out by Util? I mean, that's shocking that Eternal Fire can't frag him. Credit to him for the maneuverability that he has on that site and is able to get those 3 frags, but still, Eternal Fire had their chances to close in on him. And more likely not happy with the way that one goes down. He does manage to save the op, as mentioned. And you do see Drezzy having enough money to buy the Galil. So an op, a Galil, 2 Deagles in a tech with 5 pieces of util. It's a slim chance at being able to do something, but you kind of have to go off your first volley of util. You don't really have that luxury of faking things out or even throwing early round utility. Troglodytes finally making a little bit of noise. There's that smoke thrown from mid doors. And off of it, Eternal Fire. I thought for a moment they were just going to try and push long there, but instead they are actually going to work mid. And more with the op gives you the argument to go to long because you get that engagement that's favorable for the op immediately. It's just a matter of getting past the first prong, which is Jello. Instead, they're going mid. Crossfire's here. Mast. Oh, not sure what Mast was doing there. Maybe checking for a flank? I don't know. Either way, Henyu's backed off for a moment to hand utility to his ramp player. No. In fact, these smokes are going to be good. Mast should have a clean fight against Smiley. They don't have to worry about that CT player that much. Now they're going to charge in towards T. Thing is, they don't worry about the CT player, and he's the one to deliver a couple of frags. Smiley will get one onto Mast as well. Beanox grabs the A1S off the ground. Jerezi gets nothing, and this will be a round over. Worst thing is, they don't keep any guns. And the op is lost. There'll still be a buy up in this round, because that was the half buy with the saved op. But Emor's going to have to settle for an AK. But look at the score line. We are tied up at 9. This was a 9-3 half for Eternal Fire, who had a 9-round win streak to boot heading into this second. But Troglodytes are the one getting on a little win streak for themselves. The best of the series so far, 6 in a row. And if they get 7, I don't know. The argument will absolutely be there for them to potentially take this map and send us to a third. Oh, Depression. That's been one of the reasons why, Troglodytes have done so well. Is because Depression's been getting opening frags. Sure, he's not getting a crazy amount of kills on the board, but the fact is, if you're giving your team an early 5v4 every single round, it'll help them find success. Even if you don't find the follow-up afterwards. Eternal Fire haven't really gone for a pacier approach at any point in this half of Dust 2, which is surprising. You'd think they just want to go fast somewhere and keep it simple, but this slow pace has not really given them the round victory. Sure, they've gotten frags, as I mentioned. It's been going back and forth, but in the end, they're losing when it comes to the clutch moments. So you kind of want to try and get that early edge. Obviously, losing a player immediately in lower tunnels is not going to help you, but yeah. Henyu! Another one for him. He's up to 15. We'll get traded out this time. This isn't a bad approach for Eternal Fire towards B. Crossfire's there, but if they get rid of Depression, it'll be easier. They don't! And Mikey finds one on the back lines against Beanox. It is all Troglodytes there in the lead. 10-9. Life restored and confidence gained. Eternal Fire cannot find the answer here. That was a clean round victory for the Troglodytes as well, which means their economy can build up a little bit, finally. And op, 2 AKs, 2 A1S available for Troglodytes. And on the Eternal Fire side, they just have that Hero Galil and then pistols for everyone else. Body armor on 3 players. I don't know. How the tables have turned. Smoke thrown there, but Mast is ahead of it. This could catch Mikey off guard, who's honestly been one of the reasons why they've had this success. Mikey flashed out. They still can't get him. Finally do. Smiley and Jello get a couple of trades on back. Bomb should go down here, you'd imagine. Finally, Amor going to stake that down to dirt. Oh, that incendiary is going to make their lives a little bit difficult because now they get trapped onto site. Smiley trying to sneak in for a backstab. He will do exactly that. Gets one. Not the second Mast. Well, eventually will get taken down by Smiley. Only Drezzy left, but the round likely been decided. Full loss bonus for Eternal Fire, an additional $600. Oh, Drezzy, are you going to make this interesting? Well, at least for a moment. Jello does get the instant trade, and it will be Troglodytes finding an 11th. But mission accomplished for Eternal Fire. Had the Hero Galil in that round. Not that big of an investment. And they get the extra $600 along with the full loss bonus. They'll have a full buy now. time is running out for them here. We're maybe seeing more of that shakiness from Eternal Fire that had disappeared on Dust 2 for some time. At least throughout the latter half of September. Depression versus Amor. Oh, did Amor see that? He had to have seen the barrel of the rifle. He's going to hold the line here. Waiting for Depression to perhaps get a little antsy. Absolutely knows now. Yeah, that is Amor with huge intel advantage. Capitalizing on that. 5v4 for Eternal Fire for the first time in a while. They were having a lot of trouble dealing with Depression, and they recognized that and said, okay, we have to make sure that he can't have impact, and if we do, then we can freewheel the way we want to. No longer the op to be concerned about. In fact, they can even grab it and throw it away or throw it out of reach of the Troglodytes, but I don't know if they're going to play that much of a micro game at this point. They're just focused on getting the frags and moving forward. Plus, they have so much control of this side of the map, it doesn't really matter anyway. Nade does about 20 damage to Drezzy. 35 seconds left. Eternal Fire have to get a move on. All 4 Troglodytes on A site? What a read this is. I mean, 2 towards long and 2 on the site itself. Eternal Fire may realize what's happening here. Oh my goodness, what an adjustment. I don't know what tipped them off. Maybe the amount of util that was being tossed forward, but they go to the B site and they're going to be like, okay, well, that's as free as it's going to get. The good news for the Troglodytes is, despite the fact that they gamble stack towards A, they can still keep all their guns the next round. They don't have to fight this. And I don't even think they're in a position to go for this retake at all. Like, it's just about saving the guns now. Eternal Fire recognizing that, despite the fact that they're low on money, they are hunting. They do not want to give Troglodytes any type of cushion. They smell blood in the water, and they're going to go for it. Ooh, Smiley, though, taking out Calyx so cleanly might make them second-guess themselves a little bit. Money isn't necessarily there, like I already said, so I was surprised they even went that aggressive in the first place. But they know where Troglodytes are, so maybe hoping that they walk in the wrong direction. There's a boost over the box, visibility gained over into T-spawn, but unfortunately for them, they don't spot anyone. So all 4 guns are indeed saved over. Troglodytes can pause, talk things over. But you see the importance of Depression, right? He's the only casualty in that round, and that gives Eternal Fire all the space they need to win it. I think it's obviously a bit of a gamble from Troglodytes to go A and think, okay, they're coming here, not leave a single person within mid or the vicinity of B, so you get no information there if Eternal Fire decide to redirect their attention in that direction. But still, it's largely in part down to the loss of their opper. Timeout going to be called here. I believe this is technical. Yes, it is. Troglodytes calling for it. I wonder what happened. Maybe a ping issue. Didn't see anything egregious that would have indicated that that they were having issues, I should say. But obviously something has gone wrong. Oh, forgot to mention, that was the first round for Eternal Fire in this second half. I cannot believe the run of Forum Troglodytes had. 8 rounds in a row before they lose 1. Which was 1 short of tying Eternal Fire for the 9 rounds in a row they had on Dust 2. Here we go, back into the action. Tech pause over. Eternal Fire trying to tie things up. But I think what's great for Troglodytes is even if they lose this round, which obviously isn't the plan, but if they do, because they get the 4-man save in the previous one, money's fine. Money is perfectly fine into that next one. Might also allow them to be a little more aggressive in their potential hunts here. We'll see. Flashbang going to get tossed for Cat. Lurk at the B site here is Calyx, and he gets caught by Depression. They've changed his positioning, and Calyx finds out quickly But the op is no longer at mid, but now it's going to rotate back, and Moore needs to be careful. He loses the duel as well with Depression, although he doesn't cost him his life. Luckily for him, that is a leg shot, so he survives, but the nade almost finishes him off. He is lucky to be standing, limping along, crawling along the floor with 4 HP, and also not in range of that nade, but the util damage is just too much for them to deal with. The nades are absolute mortar strikes, and Mikey on a 3K, 23 frags. Jello gets the last. Troglodytes have pulled it back from a 3-9 deficit to 12-10 in their favor, and have 2 opportunities to close this map out. Troglodytes realizing that, things have gotten very favorable for them. I'm going to call the timeout again. Say, guys, chill out. Let's not get over aggressive. Let's keep playing the same game to rebuff and prevent Eternal Fire from pushing us to overtime. I think if I'm Eternal Fire, I'm not hitting A site anymore. That's the thing that surprises me, to see them going in that direction so consistently, because the reason why they've been losing more often than not is because Mikey has been doing all that work. Individually, he is the one carrying Troglodytes on his shoulders right now. Yes, Depression as well deserves a mention because of his opening frags, which he gets another one of in that previous round. And you could argue that because Depression gets on the B site, that's what pushes Eternal Fire towards A again. But yeah, I mean, again, I don't think Eternal Fire have done enough to kind of maneuver themselves on the other side of the map. It's really been kind of tunnel vision towards A. I think it was one time or a couple times they went B. The one time was brilliant, right? That call, when they realized how much presence was on A, they go to B and it's empty. That's one of the times. Maybe was it another one? But either way, like, it really has been towards A sites they continue trying to crack through, and mostly in cat, right? So that's why Mikey's had so many engagements. Jello now going to be tested potentially. It's been kind of quiet at long. Couple of smokes handed to Drezzy to toss through towards A. This is kind of telegraphed for Eternal Fire, but they're hoping it's still going to work out for them. Jello does get tested and has the answer. Masked opening frag, gets the next on to B, knocks the bomb, still hasn't made its way out. That's in Amor's hands. He will get a frag, but he loses Drezzy in the process, who was trying to gain space in towards CT. This is all over the place for Eternal Fire. Calyx on the site, and Amor gets one on Depression, brings it down to a 3v2. But he still has to get past these other players. In fact, he's already passed them. They're trying to flank him out. He's the last one standing, and it's over. Hanyu and Mikey find it. Unbelievable stuff from the Troglodytes. Again, 3-9 was the score at the half, and they go on a 10-1 run to pull Dust 2 back in their favor and send us to nuke. I honestly am at a bit of a loss for words as to what happened to Eternal Fire. They just completely collapsed when they went to T side, refused to adapt or make a change up in the pace of their play, continued to be stubborn about going slow and trying to set things up. And I don't necessarily mind that. I think that's the majority of the time on your T side, you need to play that way. You need to play methodically, and, make sure your util's on point and try to play the mind games. But at a certain point, just say, hey guys, why don't we just send it? Why don't we just try to overwhelm them with numbers? And they never did that. Not one time. So a little surprising. I feel like overall, mechanically, when you look at the squad there on Eternal Fire, they are the ones at the advantage under most circumstances, but they just never got to show it on their T side of Dust 2 because of the way they were playing. Anyway, that map is done and dusted. No pun intended, but maybe a little bit as we're going on towards Nuke. And this one, again, you look at the numbers on Nuke for when Jano were still a squad, and you might say, okay, they don't look that good on there. But it was the same argument I made before. Mikey and Depression are unknowns, and they were the differences on Dust 2 that allowed this ex-Jano core, now Troglodytes, to come out with the win. They could also be the difference makers on a map like Nuke, because Nuke is very reliant on the AWP. And I think that it just goes to show you how having an Opera who's connecting on opening duels, even if they're not popping off, can make a big difference for your success, especially on a CT side. Look, guys, we're going to hit the break. When we come back, we'll see if Eternal Fire can recover on Nuke, or if this resurgence from troglodytes is for real. All right, we're ready to jump into things here. Eternal Fire starting CT side, winning the knife round, so that'll help their odds of success here, as that's their better side by a lot, 61.2% CT round win percentage. And if you look back at the Jano results, again, with a grain of salt, their CT side was kind of poor, only 31.6% win percentage, but back and forth we go in the opening moments, and Troglodytes, who are perfect on pistol so far, trying to remain so. After a couple of opening frags come through for Eternal Fire, they redirect their attentions towards the B site. As Beanox does get Smiley. And then Calyx will find Depression. These are two pieces that were absolutely missing on Dust 2. Only 16 frags combined, 8 apiece. But this time, they get 3 combined, and it will lead to a round victory for them. 1-0 in their favor. Yeah, I was going to talk about as we jumped into things here. Beanox at only 8 frags and a 0.63 rating. It's just the opposite of what you would expect for a player like him of his caliber. But if you look at the results, over the past 3 months, he has his off maps. His floor is quite low when he hits it. And it's unfortunately a consistent inconsistency, let's say, on his side. So we'll see if he can sort that out. But he tends to bounce back after having a bad map. So second round of play. Eternal Fire finally cracking through with a pistol round. First time in the series, believe it or not. Depression, along with Smiley on the force buy off of that bomb plant. The whole squad, of course, on the force buy, but Depression and Smiley are heading towards ramp. There's one caught off by Calyx's Og. A nice trade from Smiley. And that Molotov may have killed Calyx anyway. But here comes Drezzy on the flank. Catching Smiley, looking the wrong way. Eventually, Smiley turns around and just is greeted by a face full of bullets. Beanox anymore. Look at those quick trades that are coming through, and eventually Masks ends it with the frag onto Mikey. That was towards the B site. Eternal Fire get a second in a row. All right, we go into the third round of play. Tech 9s for everyone on Troglodytes. Armor across the board, and Calyx delivering the frags. 3 in a row before he's put down, but he's done enough. And more comes through with the UMP-45, and Mask gets the last on the A1S. And that UMP-45 is going to immediately become an A1S because it was available on the ground for him more to upgrade to. Eternal Fire off to a very, very quick 3-0 start here. And on the side of the Troglodytes, because they only got the bomb plant in that first round, their money hasn't built up enough for them to have AKs across the board. Even some util being missed out on here. Especially for Hen who's got none of it. Mast. Sees that flashbang come through. That's actually a really good flash right beyond the edge of the smoke. They don't really capitalize on it, do the Troglodytes, though. Instead, they are deviating or focusing their attentions towards outside. Smoke break doesn't yield any information to Eternal Fire, but they still throw the incendiary for secret, which isn't a bad idea. Beanox trying to clear it. Oh, doesn't see a player above him. Mikey with some very nice forward positioning. Do they expect the second? He does! Oh my goodness, Mikey looking to pick up where he left off on that previous map of play. He was one of the key reasons why Troglodytes won. That the A site hold from him, fantastic. And he kept being tested and continued to have the answers time and time again. And more. Waiting with the AWP. Oh no, knife out. That's not a good play. And more, I'm not sure what was going through his mind in that instance because they didn't have any clearance towards outside. And he just exposes himself, knife out. Free frag for the Troglodytes. Now in a 5v2 that does turn into a 4v2. Calyx connecting on one. And Mass trying to come in and surprise any outside presence. And I think he will. Depression's not expecting this at all, assuming he takes the right pathing. No, I take that back. I didn't realize Depression's actually in secret. He does lose the duel, but does a bit of damage towards Mass. I really don't feel like Eternal Fire have any appetite for the retake anyway, so that's a kind of a moot point. Not a big loss for Troglodytes. Money-wise, maybe a little bit of a problem, but they'll have enough to reinvest in the next round, assuming they don't lose any more bodies. Okay, well, they do lose another body. Calyx finds Mikey, and eventually Troglodytes will call off this hunt.
Terrorists win.
But you see, money-wise, they're still okay. Like, they're obviously going to get a buy-through. It's just a little more costly than you'd like after only finding your first-round victory. On the other side, Eternal Fire save a couple of guns, and that's more than enough to get a reinvestment through. It was technically the bonus round for them. Not the end of the world, especially with them saving those 2 rifles as mentioned. Locker's glass is broken. Mass gets the opener. Smiley gone. That's a smoke break, I believe, or maybe just the smoke blooming in. Didn't get a chance to see it before it was happening, but that's very nice for Mass to get. I think a player towards CT side of Dust 2, where you're like, wow, what a performance they're getting from him. But unfortunately, he couldn't keep that up. He's not usually the one they lean on for frags, and Beanock's unable to awaken on Dust 2. And you kind of hope, for at least Eternal Fire's sake, that he can start to activate here on a map like Nuke. Mikey? That answers our question very quickly. At least in this round, no. Beanox will not have an impact, and neither will Calyx. Henyu disposes of him. HP very, very low for Mikey and Depression. So it's a 4v3, but it's precarious. Troglodyte's going to have to be careful how they deploy their forces. You got Jello still at 100 and Henyu a little healthier than Depression and Mikey at 68, but Henyu's lost. Drezzy spots him out. Masto. Did he not? Maybe the X-Ray's just playing games with me, but I don't know. I thought he saw that anyway. Mikey gonna get the Molotov frag onto Mass. Jello gets Drezzy, and it's been turned back in their favor. But look at the health, and Emor still holding with the AWP in the right direction. 23 seconds left. Jello limping along, crawling across the floor, hoping, beyond all hopes, that he can win a duel cleanly. But Amor's watching the right side. Jello does slip past the smoke. Gets spotted by Amor. Just one shot required. Amor, he won't get it! Jello wins the duel! 1 HP, more than enough. Troglodytes find themselves a second, and Eternal Fire have got to be kicking themselves. I don't know if that damage was necessarily confirmed, but still, Amor had it on a silver platter and whiffed. Great work on the side of Jello. Good maneuvering around the edge of the smoke, too. Anyway. Still, Eternal Fire, they're into it. They want to force up, despite losing that previous round. Opener for Depression. Cracks the scoreboard here with his first frag. It's going to be a little more difficult for Depression, I think, to activate here on Nuke, because, especially T-side, you don't see the op being deployed as much as it used to. Oftentimes it's AKs. So I think that CT side will be where Depression finds his form a little bit more. But right now he's just trying to contribute wherever possible. And again, I think the biggest problem is, look at Beanox. You know, the first man out the last 2 rounds. This is a player you want alive in late round situations. That's where he has his impact. Mikey wins the duel with Calyx. Likely the follow-up too. Yeah, he gets tagged, but he's not fussed at all. Drezzy does manage to pull one back, and he's still got Mass by his side. Oh, Drezzy gets 2. Bomb planted right in front of him as well, so he can continue his pathing forward, supported by his teammate. Trades are on through, and yeah, there goes Drezzy. Mass does get 1, but a 1v2 clutch is not possible. Troglodytes find 3 in a row, and their T side is alive. But yeah, you're looking at players and their opening duels here on this Eternal Fire squad. Yes, Beanox does go for a lot of openers, so I understand him dying first in a lot of these instances. But, you know, number one player on the team is Drezzy at 24.3% attempts. So if you're Beanox, you know, let Drezzy take some duels. Things are going a little better for him. And hang back a little bit. Maybe be the second man to go for fights. But I understand, you know, some players, they just feel like they have to force things when things aren't going well. And they put a lot of pressure on their shoulders. And I think Beanox is no exception. This time, will be the first point of contact again. Not by his choice. And he can't get anything. Depression finds him more as well. 5v3 in favor of Troglodytes. Calyx does collect the body, but the problem is he's alone. And there's still players watching. That nade brings him down to 6, and then the SMG will finish him off. Troglodytes, full control of this round. As long as they don't go hut, they're fine. Depression's watching it, flicks around, gets one, doesn't expect the second, so that's an AK grabbed off the ground eventually for Mast. Calyx has awoken, at least in this map. 9 frags on the board, Mast continuing to be good on CT side. There's another one for him onto Mikey. Troglodytes don't have the bomb planted yet. This is actually kind of problematic. Mask trying to gamble here and guess towards the right site. Troglodytes faked that they were going away from lobby and then double back in towards the A sites. That's a good job from them, capitalizing on their advantage and manipulating the mind of Masked. I wonder if he goes back in. No kit, no util, and AK only. It's going to require a very quick retake. He's going to try. And Smiley takes care of it. Masked without the head armor as well. Very vulnerable to that SMG. As the Troglodytes take the lead. Timeout called for Eternal Fire. Because these two new pieces of Mikey and Depression are making a difference. Mikey in particular. This is fantastic, of course, for the side of the Troglodytes as well. While we don't have, you know, as much information on the Troglodytes based on this current roster in terms of how they'll perform on maps, because obviously, you know, difference makers like Mikey and Depression will come through. We do know that for the side of Eternal Fire, this map is not the best on their T side. It's been okay, like 49.7% win percentage, but the CT side is where they do the brunt of their work. It's similar to Dust 2. I think actually Troglodytes got really good maps in here based on Eternal Fire's map pool. I just didn't think that it would make that much of a difference because I thought that the skill difference would be too much for Troglodytes to handle, but that obviously, at least on the second half of Dust 2 and the first half here of Nuke, has not been the case. Calyx. Ooh, that's a little messy on the spray, and he pays the price after the trade comes through from Smiley. 3v3, full ramp control game. That Molotov's going to delay Eternal Fire from having a response. That'll clear up the space towards the B site for a plant. Mask does get Depression, but it costs him a lot of blood. Down to 15 HP. Smiley waiting here, clearing things out for his teammate as they go and plant the bomb towards that B site. Ooh, Henyu pops his head up and it gets punished actually by Amor on the other side with the op. So now a 3v1 for Eternal Fire. Smiley spotted out, misses his opening salvo of shots, and now he's going to throw that nade onto the bomb diffuser. That's going to be enough. Still has to defend it further. Flashbang toss forward. They're going to try and stick that again, I'd imagine. There we go. It's a full 10 seconds required. And more watching. There it is. Easy one for Amor, free as can be. Smiley falls and Eternal Fire are back into it with a 4th round to tie things up. And I mean, honestly, that's just, you know, a good start that continues to get better and better for Eternal Fire as they spot out the players on their approach. They don't allow much space in towards that B site. I mean, yes, they get the bomb planted, but there's Eternal Fire members immediately right there to get a response. And what's even more impressive about that is Eternal Fire had to retake the space into ramp because Troglodytes were able to win that and throw the Molotov afterwards. All right. We continue here. I still think that if Troglodytes get 6 here on their T side, they will be in fantastic position. And more, the opener, trade from depression. Beanox, silent. He's got to be frustrated at this point. Wants to have more impact, but just can't seem to find his crosshair. Things have gone quiet now. Troglodytes gauging their options. And Eternal Fire don't want to take a step in the wrong direction. Ooh, and Moore's going to have a target here. And Moore should have a target very soon. There it is. Henyu gone. That is what Eternal Fire needed. Now, Depression going to have to try and lift this team on his shoulders. It won't happen, though. Drezzy puts him down. A 2K for Drezzy, and Moore finds the last on Jello, and that's more of what you would expect from an Eternal Fire squad that has been as good as they have over those last few BO3s. 5-4 in their favor. Troglodytes now pushed down to an eco. Pistols only. No upgrades likely going to be afforded to them because of the loss bonus only sitting at 2,400. But they do opt for at least one deagle. At least that little bit of hope, little bit of a chance. Calyx running the AUG here. AUG makes sense on maps like Nuke and Train. So many long-range engagements that extra bit of range garnered to you by the scope can really help. Beanox spots out the head of a player on top of Mini, and Moore collects a body with the op. And now he's settling in with the big green. Drezzy finds himself another 2K, but this time on much easier terms, up against only the Glocks, and that lone deagle is on top of Marshmallow, and eventually it sinks down into it, as Beanox will get the last. Good for Beanox to at least get himself on the board, even if it's in an anti-eco situation. Just getting that frag can sometimes help you find your rhythm. 6-4 for Eternal Fire. I think the only problem for Troglodytes is if Mikey and then Depression start to go silent, where's the answer going to come from? Like, who's going to step up afterwards? And I think that, for Depression anyway, his impact's going to come CT side with the op, without a doubt in my mind. If you're Troglodytes, your main objective right now is not to fall back by too much. Get a 5th round here at the very least, and make it 7-5 maximum, but a more moving around the map with the op in unexpected spots is going to make life difficult for Troglodytes. He's really activated in terms of being aggressive here, this time all the way towards Trophy. Catching off a frag, and Moore eventually gets traded himself, so he pays a little bit of a price for said aggression. Depression moving his way through in the back lines. This is actually not too great for Eternal Fire, and they lose another one. Dressy and Depression, as I mentioned, completely unchecked, gets Calyx. 4v2, just like that, off of an opening frag for Eternal Fire. Now, Beanox finally activates from Garage to get one. He knows that players have slipped through on the back lines, so he's very wary of how much noise he makes and the direction he heads in. Masked into the B site. Henyu and Vence will cut that off if he tries to rotate through. Looking at the money, I mean, Eternal Fire go for this. There's no reason for them to save. Maybe if you can grab the op, you say, okay, we'll bring that through. But even then, I think they can buy it. Beanox, of the same mind, tries to go for a fight there. Doesn't win it, but throws the nade in. And Smiley taken down to 22. I think he was hoping that would be a frag. Now time is really running out on them. Smiley, okay, Mask gets Henyu. Now they can activate quickly. They have to. Need to get that defusal through. Only one left. It's Depression. He hides behind the silos, though. Beanox can't find him. Does get him eventually, but it's not in time. Beanox accepts his fate, knowing that he can't get away, and goes down with the ship. Troglodytes do get that 5th, but they just honestly really needed, like I said before. And now things become anyone's game. Even if Eternal Fire get a 7th here and take a lead into that next half, it's very interesting for Troglodytes. Tactical pause being called. Troglodytes want to talk things over. Eternal Fire are probably going to do the same in terms of talking things over. AWP for a more. 4 A1Ss. They got the tools they need, the utility as well. And on the other side, it was a pretty expensive round for the Troglodytes, and you see that 2 MAC-10s and a Galil around 2 AKs. All right, Drezzy, Calyx, and Mass getting 3 frags combined, make it a 4th as Depression does punish one. He's still got a chance at clutching this, but he gets tagged down to 32 by the op through the wall. So that's going to make things difficult for him. 1:20 on the clock, and Troglodytes tried to accelerate the pace, and they paid the ultimate price. Depression slipping through the defensive lines. This is a bomb plant. There's no one at B right now. Problem for Depression is he's just used up the last piece of util. So now he has to just win the fights. He knows he'll have to take an aggressive one. Oh, Mass doesn't go fully around the corner, but it won't matter. Depression gone. Headshot for Mass from the AK delivers the insta-kill. And Eternal Fire do walk into the second half with a 7-5 lead. Wow. So back and forth. I mean, yes, Eternal Fire recover after losing the lead in the early moments of this half. They were up 3-0 and went 4-3 in favor of the Troglodytes, and then you see them go on a bit of a run to make it 6-4. But I think what's important for the Troglodytes is they do get that 5th round victory. Makes things a lot more comfortable as you go to your CT side, having successfully gotten 5 rounds on your T side, and knowing that Eternal Fire are not nearly as good when they switch to the attacking end on Nuke. Typically, the X-Channel squad, I know I don't like using these stats, but I still want to talk about it because they still got those 3 core members, are better on T side of Nuke than CT side, which is absolutely shocking to see a CT round win percentage of 31.6% on a map like Nuke. But that was the reality for those X-Channel players of Jello, Henyu, and Smiley. But they got Depression and Mikey now. And Depression on the op may change things for them. We'll see. Right now, we got to focus in on the pistol round. Jello getting aggressive. Oh, punished immediately. Beanox getting that first. Henyu gets one back, but it's going to be back and forth. In the end, 3v3. Eternal Fire trying to slip through to that B side. In fact, Amore's already there. Going to plant the bomb. No one here for the side of the Troglodytes, but they've realized very quickly that this is where it's headed. Smiley around the corner. Oop, wants to find that headshot. Gets a couple cracks at it, but Amora slipped through in towards the cubby. Amora making life so difficult for Smiley. And in fact, Smiley's now the last one standing since his teammates have taken care of the other 2 pieces. And eventually, Calyx will cap it off with his 2nd on the round. Eternal Fire get both pistols here on Nuke. Something they could not do once on any of the previous 2 maps. 8-5 now for them. Troglodytes say, yeah, we're going for the 4 spy. Gotta try and keep this one within reach. Should they lose here, it feels like an almost guaranteed 10 for Eternal Fire. Something that was nice to see for Eternal Fire here on Nuke versus Dust 2 is they went for a quick play. And it worked. I know it's just pistol, but still. It bodes well for them. because I think that's something they needed more of. Not all the time, like I said, but just a little bit more of on Dust 2. Now they go back to that slower play, methodically clearing out the corners. Smiley. He's more playing for information here and maybe a quick headshot, but he's got the information. Throws the nade and backs off. Don't want to get over aggressive in that angle because you know the util is going to be coming on forward, as it just does. Still, you have to win a fight eventually. Eternal Fire thinking about doubling back potentially to the A site. Depression guarding from observation. And Smiley close by. It's a decent setup given the guns they've got on the Troglodytes side. But Eternal Fire are forcing them to wait and second guess themselves. There's Mast finding one onto Mikey. That could draw the attention towards the A site. Yeah, you see Smiley and Depression exposing themselves, but they win the first duel. And then a follow-up for Henyu. Oh no. Eternal Fire felt like they thought they had everything figured out. But they lose 2 bodies, and now only 20 seconds left. This is the problem with the slow play. They're caught between 2 sites, and they say, okay, where do we go? Let's try A. 13 seconds left. It's going to have to be perfect. They'll have to fend off Henyu, who they know is here. Henyu and Jello get a couple. Only Beanox left. 5 seconds remain, and Beanox is gone. The force buy works for the Troglodytes, and that slow play costs them again on the side of Eternal Fire. It just feels like they don't have the adaptability when things go wrong. That is a huge problem, especially against a team where you kind of expect win, right? You expect Eternal Fire to make it through these group stages without really much of a fuss. But they're staring down at the possibility of a Troglodytes resurgence here on Nuke as well, similar to the way things went on Dust 2. And it was a bigger lead then, much bigger. 15th round of play. Free upgrades for a couple of, in fact, 3 players on the side of the Troglodytes. AKs and a Galil. Eternal Fire. Well, they're going to force up. The problem is, look at how weak of a force it is. 2 Deagles and 3 P250s because they wanted to get the body armor in. Not much util either. And yes, you have 4 smokes. You can get a wall of smokes thrown towards outside if you want. Which is what they'll do. But after that, you're kind of on your own. Just need to rely on the firepower, which there isn't much of. Nade gonna get tossed, should do damage. Only a little bit, but information gained. They know that Eternal Fire are likely headed towards that B site down secret, so they can reinforce that position. They already have Henyu there with the Galil from the last round. Not much of a challenge from Henyu. He's got the nade ready. As soon as he spots him, he's probably going to toss that, and that could do huge damage. Assuming the timing is right. Did he spot them yet? Yeah, now he will. Okay, there's the nade. Ooh, does it do a lot of damage? Yeah, decent chunk. Softens up the targets for his Galil, but an instant headshot from Mast and an upgrade to the Galil for Eternal Fire. Space gain towards B. A couple of players coming down from ramps trying to deny them that space. They're still waiting for some re-aggression. Honestly, Eternal Fire needs to get a move on here. They wanted Calyx to hopefully get something, but he does not, which means they have to get to this bomb site. 22 seconds left. They still haven't gone to the site. Finally they do. Okay, they do. Bomb planted here. Beanox gets the frag on Smiley. Mast on the Jello. Eternal Fire trying to strike back with a force buy of their own. Mikey, who's been so good, strikes for 2. Still within reach for the Troglodytes. And you've got Mast and Drezzy only with 27 HP combined, and they still find a way to frag Depression. Mikey is not going for it. He doesn't have the kit and values the A1S more than the attempt here, even though it feels like he's been good enough to clutch this out. It won't happen. Eternal Fire keep things spicy here at the beginning of the second half. Get a 9th round. Mast loses his life though, so does Drezzy to the bomb. So the only survivor is Mikey with a 4K. But Eternal Fire very pleased with themselves on that round with a 9th round secured. Now they will be a little short-handed money-wise. Galil's for everyone except Masked, you'd imagine. There you go. And the Troglodytes off of the saved A1S. You could argue a slight advantage with 3 A1Ss versus only 1 AK. In fact, no AKs. Masked decided to go for the Galil instead to get additional util. So definitely these M4s could punch through against the Eternal Fire squad. I don't know. We'll see. Eternal Fire back to their usual slow play. Oh, Mikey on the flank catches off Masked. That is not good. And again, like Troglodytes realizing, hey, if they're going to play slow, we're going to try pushing angles and getting the jump on them. Depression takes care of Drezzy. So now they got pressure not only from the back, from the front lines as well. It's going to be a bit of panic being instilled here for Eternal Fire, you'd imagine. Mikey falls off a little bit. Beanox is hunting for Mikey. He can't find him. Oh, he looks the wrong way. Mikey sees him. He knows now. But somehow, there was a spot by Beanox as well. They know exactly where Eternal Fire are, though. And in a 5v3 like this, you'd imagine they have the edge, but Mikey doesn't realize that Beanox got that close. So a 4v3, absolutely to activate Eternal Fire. You don't have time to think about things, and they're only left with one player. That's Beanox. He's on for the save. Ayah. I mean, just, you feel like Eternal Fire just getting stalled out here repeatedly. And suffering from indecision, it seems. Especially, as I mentioned before, when they don't get that opening frag on the slower play. And, you know, Mikey doing a great job activating there. I think if I'm Mikey, I'm going for that every single time against Eternal Fire. At least on rounds where things are a little more 50-50. When you have the advantage, you obviously don't need to. Like rounds like this. But anyway, look. Eternal Fire. See if they figure things out in their T-sides. Because that is what cost them on Dust 2, and it may be what cost them here on Nuke. Depression waiting around the corner here at Secret. He's going to have his hands full. No question. Not much util available for Eternal Fire. Ooh, that boost is spotted out, but he can't capitalize on it. Only gets one, and he's lucky to have even found that. Beanox finds the immediate trade. Eternal Fire activating a little earlier this time, which honestly is a boon for them, because now they can gain the space towards this B site. Drezzy moves out. Ooh, gets punished by Smiley. They need to find that trade. Nade thrown in. Player did get behind it, I think with the bomb. Yeah, and Amor even finds the frag on Smiley before planting it. Nice aggression there. And this is when Eternal Fire have looked the most dangerous. When they go for those faster plays, when Amor is playing dynamically and looking for fights instead of hanging out in the back lines. Jello caught out in secret as Henyu and Mikey are moving into the site. This is unbeknownst to Eternal Fire, who are so busy with the back lines. They do take care of that relatively cleanly, and then Beanox spots out Henyu. Only Mikey left. He does get one, but time is running on that bomb and also on his life as Calyx connects the shot with the Deagle, and it will be Eternal Fire winning back on their force buy. Troglodytes are going to force up again. Force buy wars tend to go on a long time, specifically on Nuke is where we see a lot of back and forth happen. Maybe it's just the way the map is laid out or the size of it. I'm not sure what it is, but this is not unusual for Nuke. Eternal Fire still a little strapped for cash themselves. Have a couple of MAC 10s, a UMP, and 2 A1Ss saved over. There's the... Oh. I was about to say there's the change in pace, but they get a TK. And then they lose 2 bodies instead of getting an opening frag, which felt like it was going to be delivered. How on earth does that go so wrong? Goodness me. And Morris slipped through, but he's spotted by depression. Thought he would be able to get up in towards heaven, but not happening. Drezzy, with the bomb on his back, has a technically free bomb site all to himself. Closest player's depression. Excuse me, Smiley. We'll hear that. And a 1v4 clutch required for Drezzy. Will he expect Smiley there? Well, he's throwing the Molotov for it, so certainly some kind of pressure expected. Depression should be able to get a freebie. A little messy, but he gets it. All right. Troglodytes will strike back in their force buy to get an 8. Then the force buy wars of the second half of Nuke between Eternal Fire and Troglodytes will continue. Now, the good thing for Eternal Fire is they get the bomb plant there, so that will help their force buy look a lot more potent. You're going to see probably 3 Galils in the mix, maybe even an AK sprinkled in there. And the rest onto pistols. Oh, a couple of AKs. Okay. I'm surprised that Drezzy doesn't go for the Galil to get more util. They want the firepower. That could have gone so right for Eternal Fire, though. And it goes as wrong as possible. Charging in from Hut. Just because of the TK. Just so much damage done. It's just a little miscommunication that cost them the round. Troglodytes a chance to build up a little bit of economy here with a round victory. A clean one, that is. Oh, beautiful flashbang thrown by Mikey, but Depression only gets 1 off that. That felt like a multi should have been delivered given the circumstances, but no. Great for Eternal Fire to get that trade so quickly and recover from that flash. Mikey looking to get into Garage. He's been so good in his duels, but this time Beanox wins it out. And slowly but surely, throughout this resurgence from Eternal Fire, look whose name has been on the board more and more. Beanox. 2 more frags added to his scoreboard here. He's up to 15 frags, only 2 behind Masked. That said, there was a trade that came through as I was blabbing along, so it'll be a 3v3. Eternal Fire looking to gain the space into the B site. They've got it, but they need Beanox. They need him to join them. Ooh, this is a little bit scary. I think Mass is trying to help him. He spots out Henyu, so that's information gained. Henyu, no! Oh my goodness! Beanox again handed a possibility at a frag, a silver platter for him. And unable to deliver. Yes, they get the trade, but 22 seconds left, and Jello's been able to slip throughout the chaos and get into lobby. Masked watching for it, gets a nice headshot. Smiley will find the trade, up to Drezzy now in a 1v1. Smiley doesn't expect him to be behind him, turns around in fact, but Drezzy just too strong. Great crosshair placement, and despite what felt like a sure advantage for Eternal Fire slipping away as Beanox not looking in the right direction, they still win the round. 11-8 in their favor, and now the force buy will come through on the Troglodytes end. But yeah, I mean, last time out called by Eternal Fire here, but you need to after things just feel like in multiple instances the communication isn't there when from the push right through Hut where they get crossed up and there's the spam and the player gets TK'd and everything goes wrong, to that where Beanox should be looking nowhere but mini. I mean, yes, you need to clear things out towards potentially vending, but you can just hold the line. Like, Henyu, under so much pressure there, may have to fall back, and if he's just holding the line, it's free, it's done, and you have the round. But instead, it comes down to a nail-biter 1v1. At least for Eternal Fire, the mistakes are kind of obvious for them, so they can quickly adjust and say, guys, let's settle down, let's figure things out and have better comms. But yeah. And you have a lead, so yeah, that helps. Eternal Fire, 2 rounds away from taking this series. On the side of the Troglodytes. They're probably wondering, how are we still force buying in the force buy wars 8 rounds in to this second half? Well, nuke is how. Eternal Fire gaining a lot of outside control right now, and it's not challenged much by the Troglodytes. This means that Eternal Fire gain a significant advantage. They can apply pressure from multiple unexpected positions. Well, noise going to be made now, so at least Troglodytes will hear it, but that nade should do some damage. Yeah, at least a little bit onto Jello. The alarm bells are ringing in the Troglodytes' minds. Someone's up in heaven. How far have they gotten? 3 players grouped up there. Smiley gets the trade onto Calyx after they lose Henyu. Eventually, Eternal Fire move out. Oh, but Jello gets 2, maybe a third. No, that's too far, but they've left it up to only 1 player, and it's Drezzy gone. Troglodytes win the Force Buy, and the Force Buy wars continue here without a bomb plant for Eternal Fire. How does that all fall apart? I mean, for me personally, I wonder why Eternal Fire had 3 players grouped up in heaven for so long. You're waiting there. You've got the advantage. Press the issue. They waited around. They threw utility. They basically said, hey guys, we're here. Come get us. And then Troglodytes are ready and waiting. Jello with a beautiful play. I don't want to take anything away from him. That is a nice 2K that he gets and almost converts the third. Allows his team to recover and again get the last 2. But yeah, it's just, there's weird play happening on the side of Eternal Fire that sometimes feels inexplicable. But Troglodytes, credit to them, getting the answers and capitalizing on their opportunities. This is the weakest force buy we've seen from either team so far, but Beanox, the fact he's on the bomb site here, that is surprising. Mikey does get masked. Calyx the trade onto Henyu. Jello could be next to fall, but he stands tall with the MP9 once more. We're down to a 3v3. Some upgrades available for Eternal Fire. They grab a Galil off the ground. They're trying to plant the bomb. Jello sprayed down to 77. Chaos has continued here in this matchup. I don't think I've ever seen Nuke end up with force buys back and forth to the finish line, but that looks like a very real possibility here. Immoor taking down Mikey. Jello gets the trade. Depression on the Drezzy. Immoor, the last one standing, has to buy time. They know he's here. Throws the smoke down on the ground to try and gain some space. It works out. Defusal is on. Jello's got the defusal. There it is. The force buy wars are over and Immoor will fall down to dirt. Troglodytes hit double digits, and that is the breakthrough they were looking for. Unbelievable stuff. Eternal Fire that time looked like they had it under control, and it's just a huge play from Jello again. I was talking about, Troglodytes maybe relying too much on Mikey in that previous map, needing another player to come up. Jello has been that player here on CT side of Nuke for the Troglodytes. Unreal stuff. And Depression as well. Like, he had a tough T side, but he is shown here on CT side. Back and forth we go, though, and it won't be a force buy here for Eternal Fire. The deals do ring true for one. The Troglodytes, unless they do stuff, unless they let it slip away completely, should have an 11th on the board. Beanox connecting with one, continues to fight forward here. One more headshot for Beanox, and we're down to a 2v2 with guns potentially recoverable. Smiley's isolated. If they get him, there's a path to B. Ooh, Smiley runs out of bullets in the A1S, and now Beanox does indeed get that frag and has a path to the B bomb site. I don't know how long he's going to wait here. He knows he's low on health and probably needs to get a headshot in a surprising angle before he plants the bomb. That's why he's waiting in ramp right now. He's trying to convince them he's gone towards the B site. I like the idea from Mikey to potentially clear things out on B, but he stops in his tracks and is just waiting for audio cues instead. Here comes Jello. This is what Beanox wanted. He wanted that fight. 33 seconds left. Oh, but goes a little too early, and Jello will catch him off. Troglodytes do get an 11th. It is much scarier than you'd expect it to be, given the investment that Eternal Fire had in that round. But credit to Beanox for finding another 2. We're going the full 24. Who will win it out? And will it even happen in regulation with how back and forth this has been? No opt for Eternal Fire. Troglodytes have depression on the big green. He has been so good at finding openers for them, in particular on Dust 2. Let's see if he can start to do it again here in the latter part of regulation on Nuke. It's actually kind of funny. I expected the previous match to be closer, and it ended up being a complete blowout for Fireflux. And this one I thought would be one-sided for Eternal Fire. It ends up being really close. That's just how Counter-Strike is sometimes, I suppose. All right, Drezzy gets that Molotov frag on the Jello, and then the follow-up with the AK on Depression. Henyu trying to strike back and get two of his own. He starts with one. Mikey tries to peek out, gets the headshot, but that's not enough with the A1S. Eventually, Henyu does connect on that second frag, finishing off Phoenox, but he's now the last one standing over in Mini, and they know it. Calyx going for the fight around the flashbang, will win the duel, and Eternal Fire are on for map and series point. They have to do what they've been unable to achieve throughout the entirety of this half, and that is win 2 rounds in a row. Troglodytes have done it once. Eternal Fire looking to be the ones to do it the second time. What a map this has been. Eternal Fire trying to accelerate the pace here. Smoke will stop them in their tracks. And honestly, this is when things start to get a little troubling for Eternal Fire, when they get trapped behind the smokes and become indecisive. Henyu gets that opening frag. First step towards overtime. Can't recover the AK, though. And now Eternal Fire, rightfully so, I think, in this case, slowing it down. They have the advantage firepower-wise, even still, after losing that first body. Everyone completely silent, no noise being made at all. As I say that, Mikey's kind of thunderstomping around in secret, but no one's nearby, so it doesn't matter. Beanox almost gets a duel that's favorable, but it doesn't really work out for him. I think they're trying to draw the attention towards A. They're going to rotate to B. Smiley will be their victim. Calyx finds that. Masked another on Depression. Now Eternal Fire trying to turn this round in their favor. Mikey waiting with the MP9. Gets one. Swings for a second. Almost a third. But he can't connect the shots onto Drezzy as he's going for that transfer. Still, Mikey has given his team a chance at life here on Nuke. 20 seconds remain. Jello just has to deny the plant. That's all he needs to do. And they win. Molly thrown. Trying to plant the bomb in the smoke. It works out. Jello wants to wait it out. Doesn't get aggressive. Henyu. Excuse me, it was Henyu that was waiting there. Jello was towards the A site. And now, Jello did manage to grab an AK off the ground, which increases their odds of success here. The problem is no util aside from the Molotov. Oh, and Jello gets spotted out as he's trying to line up the Molly down to 5 HP. Molly's good, though. Forces Drezzy out of position, but Drezzy will still get Jello. And then Mass finds Henyu. Eternal Fire eventually take the series, the favorites in it, but it didn't look like it on the last 2 maps, especially on Nuke. Troglodytes gave them a huge run for their money, but they still managed to pull it across the finish line. It wasn't easy. And I mean, it was like kicking and screaming across the finish line as they were pulling this win across it. But man, oh man, you know, at least we got some exciting Counter-Strike there on Nuke. Whew. Yeah, so Eternal Fire end up 1-0. And I would say Troglodytes, you know, maybe a team to watch out for because Mikey and Depression add an interesting element to that Finnish core. It's interesting. I really did appreciate what Mikey was able to do. It never felt like a round was over, especially when he was implicated in the right spot, which he ended up being in the right spot, especially many times on CT side. Dust 2, that A site, unbelievable holds. Like, his anchoring was incredible there. But suffice to say, they still lose despite that, but at least make life really difficult for Eternal Fire, who, again, were the heavy favorite coming into this matchup. That will wrap up coverage for today, guys, of this 0-0 stage of the Group B that we covered, at least for these last 2 matches. But we will have more action tomorrow for CCT EU number 8, and we hope to see you there. For now, Have a great night.